Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the 203rd edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. My name is Steve Wellings, and a heavyweight weekend of boxing, joined by a heavyweight panel. I have Andy Patterson on the line, Donny Baseball, Hater Dave Lowback, and I believe someone's just jumped on the call. It might be Seb. They wanted more Seb, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they asked for last week. We like to deliver on the podcast, and we're delivering again this week. Let's see how this goes. Right, no pissing about. We're just going to get straight into the action. T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, Nevada. Tommy was there. Quite what state he's in right now, we have absolutely no idea, but hopefully he's still living anyway. Sergey Kovalev losing to Andre Ward, 114, 113 across the board. Ward goes home with trinkets of all varieties, IBF, WBO, WBA, etc. My own personal opinion now, I thought Kovalev won the fight. I watched it on a Russian feed. I had it 116, 111. Thought he was forcing the fight. That's no indication of somebody winning it, of course, but he had the knockdown in the second round. He was landing the harder punches. I felt Ward was doing a lot of holding, a lot of clinching, and Kovalev held his own in the clinches, even though that was supposed to be Ward's area. And Ward was dropping in the occasional little shot behind the head and doing all these type of things. But even though he was landing left hooks well towards the end, and he definitely improved as the fight went down the stretch, I just thought Kovalev won, to be honest. And I was a little bit aggrieved whenever the decision came in. Not having listened to English commentary, I didn't really know what to think. Went straight onto Twitter because I was watching it this morning. A lot of people seem to think it was a fair enough decision, so I'm not going to get too upset about it, Andy. I haven't really heard your opinion. Haven't been on the Twitter chat that much today. How did you see it? Did you think it was a fair result? Did you think Ward won? You're a great scorer. What was your scorecard?
I had a 114, 113 to Kovalev, mate. Certainly a few swing rounds in there. Good fight, I thought. Certainly was what we all wanted anyway, two primish fighters fighting at the top level, fighting each other. I thought Kovalev was excellent the first couple of rounds. You know, he came out there quite aggressive, you know, with the jab. Thought he buzzed Ward pretty early in the first round, and going into the second, I kind of thought Ward was extremely fortunate with the knockdown as such. I mean, I know he was hurt and stuff, but if you actually look at the actual right hand that landed, Kovalev never really got a lot of extension on that right hand. So if he'd been like a fraction back, he maybe got that shot at full extension, I think he could have maybe knocked Ward out. But you know, Ward done his job. He got up, and he seemed to have probably the best thing that happened to him, actually, because he then started kind of like, you know, really thinking his way around about the fight. Even though I did have Kovalev winning in the third round, but I think as the fight wore on as such, I thought Kovalev was just following Ward round about, rather just kind of sticking to his jab, keeping it going and stuff, and maybe, you know, just keep the pressure on Ward, because I thought, you know, if he wasn't really kind of cut the ring off on Ward, he was giving him kind of space to kind of manoeuvre himself and kind of buy himself some precious seconds. So you can maybe say that maybe Kovalev fell into a bit of a lull, maybe let the fight slightly slip him, especially around the middle round mark anyway. But, you know, especially when it came to the kind of the grappling and the hold and stuff, both were at it. It was really hard to score, so it's really kind of basically your preference. But, you know, both were holding, both were parrying, both were trying to kind of like, you know, dig in the inside and stuff. But as I say, the inside stuff was kind of pretty brutal to score sometimes. But you know, at the same time, I thought Kovalev showed a bit of what's, you know, good technical wit about him. You know, good technical ability against a vastly superior fighter, well, boxer, I should say, actually, no, rather than say fighter. But even though he lost the fight, I think at the same time, you know, the public perception, especially among like the kind of hardcore fans and some of the, you know, most of the boxing media, the vast majority of them would have him actually kind of like saying that he won the fight. So his stock's not really diminished as such. But without question, I think we need a rematch, because we do need some sort of closure on this. We might even get a trilogy out of this. We just don't know. But hopefully we get the rematch sorted next. It's not going to be like 6-8 months away and stuff. I think, you know, the timing is now. You know, you've got a bit of controversy. It's going to sell more. You know, you see Eddie Hearn mention that as well. So, yeah, get the rematch made straight away and see where we're at. But was it a robbery? Listen, guys, I've seen worse robberies in this. Honest to God, it was a closest fight. I just thought Kovalev maybe slightly kind of let the fight get too close in the cards. Even though I did think that he won the fight, you could probably go back to the fight again and watch it. And I think you could maybe have it slightly wider for Kovalev. To be honest, though, for what I saw of it, I don't think there's enough in that fight to maybe give it to Ward. But that's just my perception on it.
Donny, one thing I liked about Kovalev, and I was watching him quite closely. Now, maybe you and the rest of the listeners see this all the time, but I was actually quite impressed with his head movement. Now, I know that he took a few flush jabs in particular and quite a few left hooks, but I mean, it's boxing. Fighters do take punches. But the way Kovalev was slipping and moving the head, it just showed me there are different levels to Kovalev's game. He does have quite a few I mean, it was a high technical fight between the two of them. Like Kathy Duva said before, I think it was going to be a high-powered chess match or something like that. But the skill level of Kovalev, every time I see something different from him, and I was really impressed with his head movement and the way he sort of feinted in and went as if he was going to throw the left jab to the body, and then as Ward went down to protect it, he threw the right hand. The point I'm trying to make is Kovalev's a really skilled fighter, and I keep on noticing this every time I see him fight.
Yeah, I think, well, that's the thing, is that when you're blasting out opponents left and right, and in such quick fashion, and oftentimes in one punch fashion, people just assume you're a puncher. He showed us that he wasn't against Hopkins, and people were like, I guess maybe they didn't want to believe what they have already should have known if they had seen, which is that there's a lot of wrinkles to his game. And of course, and they were like, well, maybe it's because Hopkins was really old. Maybe Hopkins was shot. No, he wasn't, and even if he was, no one had ever done that to Hopkins before, and, beating him at his own game the way that Kovalev had. And so it was clear to me then that, that he really, when he needs to, and against the opponent that makes him do it, is capable of showing us that he's got a lot more talent than that. And I think John David Jackson has really polished a gem with regard to to Kovalev's career as he's grown. And now he's at the point where, for a long time, Ward was the pound for pound best boxer in the game. After last night, he is again, and Kovalev was within a hair's breadth of beating him on the official cards. And like you said, a lot of people still think he did win. And so, if you can box with Andre Ward and come that close to winning, then obviously you have special talent, a very, very special level of talent. He really gave us a good fight last night, as did Ward. Incredible heart that Ward showed coming back from that knockdown. When that third round came out, you knew that Kovalev, he's a champion. He was going to come with everything. But he showed an incredible, desire to win, to get through that. And also then, during that round and afterwards, not shelling up, right? Because he was hurt when Kovalev got him. And he didn't shell up. He wasn't just trying to survive there for a few rounds. He had a plan to get himself back into the fight, and he had a plan to win the fight. And like I said, officially speaking, he did. And you have to give him credit for that. But yeah, really just there's a lot of action, but it was a technical fight. But it was one that I think, even if you're not a hardcore boxing fan, I think you're still very, very capable of enjoying that fight, because it had something for everybody. It had technical chess matches. It had action. It had inside fighting. It had outside fighting. And really, it was and the thought that, not only did we not have to wait a long time to get it, but that, there's the immediate rematch clause, which Kovalev is going to be activating on Monday. So we're going to get to see this fight twice. That's awesome. And it was a night, I guess, that boxing fans won't soon forget. Certainly the best fight of 2016 by far, I think.
Do you think Ward's going to piss about with the negotiations, though? Because, to be honest, even though he won the fight officially, Kovalev is basically on his watch now.
Well, we know that Andre Ward is not afraid of a courtroom, but if he wants to get out of the rematch, that's the route he would have to take to do so, because that is an immediate rematch clause. Immediate means next, and I'm sure that there's something in there that says within a certain number of months, but it is supposed to be his next fight. And Kathy Davis said, by immediate, it means that he cannot take an interim fight. It has to be next. So I don't know if maybe we won't get it in 3 or 4 months. Maybe it'll be 8 months. Who knows? But it does have to be next, apparently. So from what they said.
What did your old man say about the fight last night?
He didn't see it yet.
He's not?
No, he will. He said he's going to see it this week.
Ah, shite.
Mm. Yeah, no, he really wanted to. Yeah, okay, yeah. Especially in one where the scoring was so contentious. Yeah, it would have been nice, but he hasn't seen it yet.
We'll hold on, Donnie, and try and get his word if we can in the future. Dave, I agree with Donnie, actually. I think it was a good fight and I enjoyed it. And I was thinking to myself, I actually enjoy Ward fights more because of the opponent and who he's fighting. I'm not a Ward fan. I don't tune in to watch Andre Ward. Whenever he fought Paul Smith and beat him up, I wasn't interested. Sullivan Barrera, yeah, I was a little bit more interested because I was interested to see what the undefeated Barrera would bring to the party. Alexander Brand, no interest. It has to be the dancing partner for me, and Kovalev was the perfect dancing partner for Ward. Putting that aside, actually, Dave, now that I've thrown that in, I'm going to ask you about the scoring and the fact that it was 3 American judges. A few people have raised this. Should Kovalev have fought harder beforehand to have more neutral judges? Was this a sticking point with the negotiations? I noticed Graham Houston on Twitter was saying something about it. Where do you stand on the fact that they're all 3 American judges, Dave?
Based on, I haven't seen the cards themselves to see like which rounds they gave to which guy, but based on the fact that after the rewatch, on us, because I first watched it on stream, it was not a great stream, and I had Kovalev nicking it. I didn't really score it either, but I just felt like Kovalev should have won it. Then I did score it just an hour ago, just watching it on a nice HD crisp download, and I had it exactly the same as the judges, 114-113 to Ward. So I agreed with the judges. It was a very, very close fight, and I wouldn't complain about it going either way. You could definitely give it to Kovalev. There were 3 swing rounds, the 3rd, the 4th, the 10th. Those ones were really tough to judge for me. I gave 2 of them to Kovalev. But I don't think the Americanism swayed this. If anything, it may have been if they were paid off. I'm saying I don't necessarily see any evidence that they were, certainly, but it could have been Rock Nation pulling some strings, because Ward is by far their best horse in their stable. It was a tremendous fight for me. Not like, it wasn't a slugfest like Rios Alvarado, but it was momentum shifts. We saw great heart. We saw top boxing. And balls from both guys to just step in there against another man who is that good. I think we have the pound for pound number 1 and number 2 sorted, depending on how you score that fight. I would love to see the rematch, and it was the best Andre Ward fight I've ever seen. That's for sure. The fabulous thing is, I mean, who'd have ever thought that a guy as good as Andre Ward would ever meet a guy who could give him a great fight? It's like you see a really dominant fighter like Muhammad Ali, and then he comes up with Frazier, and then you see, well, here's his rival, and maybe we have a rival for Ward. We'll find out in the rematch. Maybe Kovalev wins it. Maybe they do a 3rd one. That would be tremendous. But yeah, Ward, he could have taken his first loss since he was 16 or 12 or whatever last night, and I thought live watching, I thought that he was about to, but he didn't. And I hope this sends a message to all boxers that this is what fans want to see. I hope the pay-per-view did well, even though I don't endorse pay-per-view, and I didn't buy it. I hope it did well. Certainly hope it did better than Canelo Smith. And both these guys should have been making the millions and millions that people like Floyd and Pacquiao make. And Canelo make, like, for doing nothing, because they were the ones who laid it all on the line, and not only that, they refused to give in and lose. No quit in either guy last night.
Seb, last week I spoke at length about how the jab was going to be key to this fight, and you generally agreed with me. I think one of the problems was that I saw was that Kovalev was using it quite well at the beginning of the fight, but he stopped throwing it towards the end. In your opinion, where was this fight won and lost on behalf of both guys? Seb, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead. Where was the fight won or lost, do you think, between Ward and Kovalev?
Won or lost, I think. I don't know, I mean, kind of, like, I don't even understand that question. I'm not even trying to be a prick or anything, but what do you mean by that won or lost? I mean,
well, I mean, what did Kovalev
there's so
not
much
do?
going on in there that I don't think Kovalev necessarily neglected anything. I just think he slowed down a bit because Ward was whacking into the body a little bit as he settled into the fight. I mean, guys were talking about the scoring. Just for the record, I had Glenn Trowbridge's card. His name is Glenn, isn't it? Glenn Trowbridge, that's his name,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Glenn Trowbridge. I had his card, same card as him, and the only card that I thought was a bit suspect was the Clements card, because it looked like he built Ward a little winning lead and then stuck a little kind of consolation round on the end for Kovalev, you know, to balance it out a little bit. But as far as how the fight was on, I just saw Ward adjust a little bit, and I saw him introduce more variety into his own jab as well. Early on, I mean, Kovalev was just sharper earlier on, and he slowed down the more that Ward got into the fight, the more Ward started to touch the body. I mean, geez, it's just one of those, man. It's like everybody bitching about the result. I kind of want to talk about, like, what a fucking meaningful fight it was and what a good fight it was. Everybody wants to make a fucking polemic out of it. I was like, what do you want me to talk about? Talk about some of the
Tell
things.
us what a meaningful fight it was then.
Oh, do you want me to? I'll do that. Okay. All right. So aside from dissecting the fight itself, like, listen, this is what I'll get on a rant about before I get to anything else. I'll try for my critics to curtail this a little bit, but we spend all our time looking back, right? The golden eras of boxing. You know, we spend all our time talking about the Fab Four, longing for the good old glory days when the best fought the best, when they were at their best, and all that bullshit. But then when we get a pound-for-pound level matchup between two guys who are looking like they could be modern greats and who are near their best, and they're not in their late 30s, you know, we don't even appreciate what we get. We refuse to accept the decision in a close fight, and it was a razor close fight. It was a 1-1-4, 1-1-3 kind of fight either way. We can't just say and accept that was razor close. That could have gone either way, depending on whom you give a greater share of swing rounds to. We turn it into some big polemic and we make it a scandal when it's not a scandal. You know, we literally just had a Fab Four type of fight. You know, but it's a Fab Two, because these guys can only fight each other. There ain't a four, there's a two. So these guys elevate themselves by fighting each other. You know, and it was a close fight for a reason. It was a close fight because the best, the truly elite, were fighting each other. And people are complaining because Ward didn't stand out head and shoulders above Kovalev. You know, it was a fight that delivered. It was never going to be like a rock'em sock'em type fight, but we got a high level technical war. You know, a really tremendous boxing match with some bad intentions mixed in as well. So when you add it all up, we got something that we haven't really gotten from boxing in a long time. You know, we haven't gotten that kind of a fight, you know, a prestige fight that actually delivered. We haven't had that in a long time. I mean, Manny and Floyd was a little bit of a bust. You know, it didn't really come at the right time. It was a little bit late. People did get hyped for it, but it didn't really deliver. This was a good fight, but people don't even want to focus on that. They'd rather be pissed off because the guy they wanted to win didn't get the decision.
I mean, when you say people, I don't think you mean us. I mean, I think
no, I don't mean you. I'm talking about all that. But we're addressing the audience of boxing fans, aren't we?
Yeah,
supposedly.
Well, forget about them and tell us what you thought. Don't worry about what they think. What did you think of the actual fight itself, briefly?
What did I think of the fight itself? Briefly. You want me to talk about it briefly?
Yes.
Well, actually, wait. What I wanted to let me just ask you something.
Yeah. Yes. Somebody asked me something. Oh, Donald's gone.
Donnie just dropped off.
I haven't seen that many people complaining about it. There's been like the odd one or two saying, "Oh, robbery." I mean, you can tell they hate Ward and they love Kovalev.
It's not a robbery. No way is that a robbery.
I think I see a lot of people saying it was a great fight and saying they accept the decision.
There seems to be maybe I'm seeing people lying then, because I'm seeing Alex and other guys we talk to who are complaining about the shit flying on both sides, and it seems like I'm seeing a lot of retweets and people bitching about how Ward didn't deserve the decision, and Doug Fisher's hand wringing about Ward didn't deserve shit and all this. Like, anyway, what we found out was that Kovalev was capable of jabbing with Ward, and that wasn't a huge surprise, because I mean, if you see Arthur Abraham time Ward with a jab here and there, then you have to think that Kovalev would have more success than Abe. And another thing, he didn't just fall asleep in front of Ward's left hand like a lot of guys do. He didn't get lulled to sleep by Ward's jab. You know, he did his own thing, and Ward did as the fight progressed. He got his jab going too. They were trading it early. it wasn't that Ward didn't land his jab at all early. It's just this. I think Ward had a little bit of a shock at the start of the fight, and that shock factor worked for Kovalev because
That's what I said, mate. I said the exact same thing because he came out there rapid style with his jab, and then, as I say, as a fight kind of wore on, he seemed to kind of neglect his jab a wee bit. I think I said it to you earlier on there as well.
Yeah. And I just think as the fight went deep, Ward found a little bit more variety with what he does. He was never able to actually counter Kovalev at all, really. He wasn't able to find the opportunities that he normally does to counter guys. One thing I did say that he shouldn't do on the pod last week is to leap with that lead left hook much. And if you watch the replays at the end of the the end of the fourth round on HBO, you'll see Kovalev successfully countering that leaping lead left hook with a stiff jab that put Ward in check. And on other occasions, you'll see him come close to countering that left hook with a right hand as well. But again, with that, Ward started to use his hook more astutely as the fight went on. It became less of a leaping punch, and he picked his moments to excuse me. Picked his moments to exchange with it. Fucking hell.
Right, while you go off and get a drink of water, I'm going to throw some questions out to the rest of the panel. Just hold on to that thought there while you're out flemming yourself. Right, Dave, hold on, Seb. I'm getting a bit of feedback here off somebody. Right, Dave, I'm going to throw a few of our listener questions in because the guys have sent in questions on Twitter and Facebook and stuff all week. So, and there's been a few flying in today. So, Dave, get your teeth around this one from Liam Wynn. He says, what next 3 fights would we want to see for both Kovalev and Ward? If we say the first is the rematch, fair enough. Who else do you then want to see them in with? I mean, myself speaking, it's going to have to be Adonis Stevenson, isn't it? Political divide aside. What do you think, Dave?
I would love the Stevenson fight. Maybe Ward gets injured in the interim and Kovalev just has to fight Stevenson and knock his dumbass out or into a coma for all time. The best thing about last night was that Stevenson was not there to talk some stupid bullshit. He just run in the ring and yell something at two guys who would easily destroy him. I don't want to hear from him until he needs to earn his shot at these two guys. He's nothing. But yeah, I would love to see him knocked out anyway. We'll have to see who comes up through the rankings, I guess. The guy who stopped Chilemba last night apparently is looking pretty good. He's still new and inexperienced, and I know he didn't really knock Chilemba out, but he did force the stoppage, got him injured, I guess, and was winning the fight. So, that could be a potential 175er that we see against them. I think Ward, after a rematch, maybe a fight or two more, I think he's about to retire. Kovalev, there's more for him to do. I think he's a huge guy. He punches like at least a cruiserweight, maybe a heavyweight. He could be a cruiserweight. I think there's some fights for him up there. Hopefully his chin can handle the cruiserweight punch. I don't know. But I would like to see, I don't know, is that guy, that big weight cutting guy, what's his name again, who smashed Divorce Cloud? Beterbiev, yeah. I don't like that big prick, but I think it'd be fun to see him. I think it'd be fun to see that all Russian matchup, and I would love to see Kovalev wipe his ass out.
Donnie, any names you want to throw into the mix?
Actually, no. I was going to mention Beterbiev also, and I guess, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Kovalev try things out up at Cruiserweight also, but I mean, actually, if you had to tell me what's the next 3 fights I'd like to see, I'd prefer if it just was like when we went back straight down to the 1950s and these guys just fought each other 3 more times, right? In about the span of 3 months too. That would be the best way to do it. But really, I mean, they it's I think that's really ideal when you see 2 great fighters fighting each other and they're not afraid of it. Obviously, if they were, they wouldn't have agreed to the immediate rematch clause. So, I'm fine with seeing this fight a couple more times at least.
Couple of comments coming from our listeners. I'm going to quickly read them out now. I don't know if you guys have any opinions on this. Ben Scott, our friend from Blue Buffalo Web Design, is working on the Boxing Asylum website at the moment, an avid listener to the show. Ben has put in his 2 pence worth over on the Facebook page. He said, even though I wanted Kovalev to win and backed him for the KO, my head always said Ward on points. I had Ward up by 4, Kovalev tired and Ward was nicking the rounds with sneaky body shots and clean piercing jabs, aka the spear jab, Seb, exclamation mark. But I wouldn't have moaned either way, really close rounds. My timeline, however, is full of people calling robbery. Does the panel feel like me? People continuously calling robbery in close fights when their fighter loses detracts from the real robberies, like the hooker draw, which Paulie called on Sky, and what a fucking criminal act that was, in my opinion, blatant bribery. That's a good point, actually, Andy, isn't it? Sometimes when we have a close fight, it's just a close fight. It doesn't have to be a robbery. And as Ben says, it does detract away from the true robberies then.
Yeah, exactly. Well, remember the shit that was getting thrown about after the Burns Relic fight. There's legitimate cases out there, as it says, about real robberies. I mean, I didn't see much of that fight last night because I was kind of like on the brink of unconsciousness. I was trying to get a couple of hours sleep before the main event, but I did hear that Hooker Perez fight was pretty bad decision. Walters against Souza, probably Rios against Abril. Bradley Pacquiao, that was horrible. I mean, we can go back further than that. Oscar against Sturm, Ramirez against Whittaker, the first fight.
Chisora versus Hellenius.
Lewis against Walcott, first fight. We're going way back. Mosley against Oscar, which we done on Punches for the Past, the second fight. Briggs against Foreman. So there is, those are legitimate robbery type things. It says, I agree with you, Seb, but the fact is, it was a close fight that I did think that Kovalev allowed to get slightly too close in the cards. As I says, he didn't kind of like make his authoritative with his jab, kind of like as I says in the middle rounds and stuff. As I said, he dominated with it early. So it kind of made the fight more difficult on himself because he kind of basically like allowed Ward to kind of pot shot him, fall in, and then basically tried to kind of dig each other in close. So, as you say, there is legitimate cases out there of other legit robberies.
Seb, you're not a fan of my question, so let's see if this question from Twitter listener Joe Sale gets you pumped up any more. He says, where do you think the rematch will take place between Kovalev and Ward? If there's a rematch, which we expect there to happen, and the negotiations all go smoothly, where do you think the rematch will take place, or where do you think it should take place, Seb?
Location. It's got to be Vegas again. It's not going to go to Oakland, is it? So
it actually has to be.
What has to be Vegas?
They made it. It'll be Vegas because it's in the clause that it says it can't be California and it can't be Russia.
It's Vegas then, right?
Yep, pretty much, yeah.
Vegas or New York.
Can I say something before I fuck off? Because I haven't even slept, so if I sound like I'm off it or I'm a little bit spacey or whatever, it's because last week I was on drugs. This week I haven't slept. But I want to say something about this fight before I piss off. All right? Or I might stick around just for a little bit, just in case you guys, I might stick around to listen just in case you guys talk about something else I want to talk about. But what I will say about this, what I liked about this fight, right, is I don't have to do this. I can stop if you like, mate. It's up to you. I don't mind.
No, go on.
All right. What I liked about the fight is that we didn't get Ward skating off and building up a lead. It was the fact that he had to deal with some adversity and a scorecard deficit that made the fight as interesting as it was. Because I don't think we've ever seen Ward in that kind of a position ever. And if he just skated off to an early lead and it was Kovalev who'd had to chase a deficit, he's a guy who likes to box at a measured pace throughout a bout. He's not a guy who's known for pouring it on late or coming on down the stretch. So if he was ever in a position where he had to chase this fight, then you wouldn't anticipate him having too much success against a guy like Andre Ward. So the fact that he was able to establish himself early and give Ward some problems to solve was not just good for him, but it was good for the fight and it was good for everybody watching. The adversity that Ward kind of had to face was kind of threefold, because it's kind of hard to say exactly how hurt he was when he went down, because he's a kind of calm guy who can play some of it off, but he was definitely shook up and it wasn't like a flash knockdown. But aside from being hurt, he had to kind of resist. I think Donnie spoke about this. He had to resist the intimidation factor of having felt the power early, which a lot of guys can't do. They just go into survival mode from that point. And then he also had to deal with the technical issues that Kovalev was presenting him. So he had a lot to surmount and get over in this fight. But he turned it around, and that's a testament to the strength and depth of his will. And that's why I think Ward, before I quit, just want to say he deserves a lot of credit for what he did in the fight. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be what he put in shouldn't be overshadowed by people bitching about, was it the right decision or not? It was a very close fight. Could have gone either way. That's just the kind of fight it was.
Can I just ask also, what is it? I mean, maybe it was just the answer is the body work or Kovalev's stamina. He doesn't usually go the 12, although he did against Chilemba. But I mean, but I guess, it looked like early in the fight that Kovalev had no problem like getting, in range to find Ward and tag Ward. And it felt like, especially in the later rounds, he just seemed like he was chasing him around and could have cut off the ring. Or maybe, Ward's movement was just too good. But it seemed like he was really sort of mentally causing Kovalev to tire a little bit, with his movement and being able to constantly just slip just out of range and just keep him kind of literally chasing around the ring. And it was only in spots that Kovalev was able to finally catch up and land some punches. And that's why I thought he was able to take a couple of rounds in those last 8. And that's why I had him winning by a point. But I mean, in general, it was just he had no problem finding him early. And usually that's when the fighter with with good movement and good legs, is going to be able to make it difficult. And usually the puncher catches up later, right? But in this case, it seemed like the opposite.
You talking to me, Donald?
Or you or anybody? Yeah, jump in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's kind of twofold. A little bit is. Ward did speak, actually, you mentioned this quite a lot before the fight. He took a few digs at Kovalev's conditioning, actually. And he said, listen, you can't kind of embed the kind of conditioning that I've got overnight, or in 8 weeks, one camp. This is something I've been doing a long time, and I'm going to outlast him in this fight. But I think as well, it was a combination of that. I think it was a combination of the body shots, helping to slow Kovalev down a little bit. Kovalev naturally fatiguing, because I mean, Kovalev was having his successes in the first 2 rounds. He's very fresh, and it was like Ward was facing something like that he'd never faced before. He's never faced that kind of compound of factors before, the timing, also like the length and the footwork, the in and out footwork of Kovalev. So he had a lot to adjust to. So it's a combination of Kovalev slowing down a little bit, but also Ward making subtle adjustments. And you saw Ward gradually making inroads into the fight. By about the 5th round, he was starting to make inroads. Even though I actually gave Kovalev that 5th round, a lot of people seem to think Ward had a shout for that round. I thought it was a fairly clear round to Kovalev because of the consistency of his jab. But Ward was making little inroads. Before you knew it, by about the 7th round, he was 7th round onward. He was just stacking up rounds, and you were like, oh shit, I haven't given Kovalev a round here for a while. I mean, it's a very fucking close fight. I mean, there was nothing in it in terms of who won or lost. There was nothing in it. This is why it's whoever you gave it to, it wasn't conclusive in any way. That was not a conclusive result. Whoever you got it for. If you score it for Sergei Kovalev, I've got no problem with it, because for me, people could score the first 6 rounds for Kovalev, and I would have no problem with it. And they could score the latter 6 for Ward, and I would have no problem with it, which gives Kovalev the fight on the knockdown. There is no conclusion. Whoever you've got it for, it wasn't conclusive. So that's why a rematch is great, and it sets up a great rivalry, and it's these kinds of rivalries that fighters elevate themselves to greatness on,
What feed did you watch it through, Seb? Did you watch HBO? Or...
Live, I watched the Sky, and on review this morning I watched the HBO.
Right. Donny, follow-up question from Joe Sale here. Which of the 2 fighters do you think will improve their game more to win the rematch? It's quite an interesting question from Joe. Which two?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Well, I mean, if you the funny thing is that if you look at the second fight as like an extension of the first, right? So that it's not really round number 1, but kind of round 13, then I think you'd have to give Ward the edge, because obviously, he made adjustments in the fight, and after getting hurt, mind you, and facing the scorecard deficit, and he seemed to have figured some things out. And I think that if he basically fought the next fight the way he, fought the second half of this one, I'd have to favor him. But Kovalev, I think this how he shows up in the next fight will tell us a lot about him. First, I think he needs to work a little bit on his inside game. I mean, he held his own in there, but that's where Ward was able to get a lot of those punishing body shots and was on the inside. He needs to develop a little bit of a body attack of his own. I felt like Kovalev definitely got outdone in terms of the body work. And, maybe this time, instead of Ward slowing him down so that he has trouble finding Ward, maybe Kovalev does some work to Ward's body, touches him up down there, and maybe, Ward isn't so fleet of foot in the late rounds, the way he was able to move very well for 12 rounds. So, this will, like I said, I expect both guys to improve, and that's why I think it'll be close again.
I think the main person that's got to improve would be Kovalev and try to cut the ring off. As I say, he allowed kind of Ward to go out of distance a bit too much last night. So I think that's the main thing he's got to kind of work on, and probably just kind of keep that jab pumping all the time as well. Just kind of keep Ward, keep him busy, just keep him on the end of it, because as I says, if he keeps it at mid distance, and that's where Kovalev's best chances are. If he takes it in close, which he showed that he has got the ability to kind of block and parry and kind of get his own digs off and stuff like that. But that's where Ward's bread and butter usually is as well. Sometimes is in close, spoiling, getting like one or two body shots in there, maybe a wee jab then falls in. So I think that's the main thing he's got to kind of basically work on. Work on his cutting the ring off, make sure he can get Ward trapped in the corner somewhere and make his punches count. Because it says, I think he was kind of like looking for the right hand all night and stuff. It just wasn't going to land from. So that's a couple of things he needs to kind of pick up on, maybe improve on.
Yeah, I think as Seb said, I know I've been huffing and puffing at Seb tonight, but I'm mellowing a bit now, and I do agree with his comment that it was a razor-thin fight between two top-quality fighters. And we always look with the sort of sepia tinted glasses in the past, and we have to appreciate the fact that this is the best fight in the best, and we can't ask for any more at the moment. And I mean, just gauging opinion actually on the Facebook page, just flicked on there. Richard Swig, he said he wanted to add his voice about the fight. Another opinion here. He said, I thought Ward swept the last 7 rounds of the fight. So the best you could go for from a Kovalev perspective is a draw. Round 5 was a close one, so you could give it to either. But in the end, I think the right man won. It was a brilliant display from Ward to get up and win the way that he did. Can't disagree with you, Richard, there, to be honest. I think that's, a perfectly valid assessment and a valid opinion. Andrew Lee Evans, he's asking the panelists to give their interpretation of the term a robbery. It's bandied around too much in the sport and used when folk are bitter that their guy lost. In my opinion, Kovalev lost a very close fight, subjective, sure, but he certainly wasn't robbed. We spoke about the robbery side of things, so we'll probably let that one go. But again, a very valid question. Thanks to Andrew. I'm going to throw a few values in as we go along tonight, guys, just a little bit different. We're not going to have a strict sort of sitting there and reading them off one after another. I know people get a bit pissed off with that, but rather than give it its own segment, I'm going to read a few here and there and give people their due there for contributing and sending them in as usual. Just before we move on, the undercard, as I said earlier, I haven't seen a single punch from the undercard. I'm not ashamed to admit it. Been working and stuff all weekend. Alexander Gvozdyk made Isaac Chilemba quit. I must admit that looked like a surprise, unless it was an injury. It looked like a surprise on paper. Maybe the guys can fill us in.
Roy Jones quit for him, but yeah.
Oh, did he? Right. Okay, fair enough. Maurice Hooker, as you would no doubt say, Donny, drew with Darlis Perez. Curtis Stevens beat James De La Rosa. Anything from the undercard that you enjoyed, Donny? Morris or Maurice?
Well, the Hooker Perez fight was an absolute. People were talking about robberies. That was a robbery. I mean, I know that he got the draw, but I mean that's like one of those things where it's like there's clearly like a prospect and like an older guy who moved up a division and he's supposed to just handle him, and instead of him handling the old veteran, like he just got completely schooled, and and then they probably we'll just give him a draw or something. I mean, that was bad, man. I mean, the guy just, I mean, the poor fella, he just looked horrible. And, I mean, it was an 8-2 type of fight easily. I mean, there wasn't even any question about it. And those scorecards, except for the one, we don't even know because I think BoxRec has it wrong. So I don't know exactly which judge messed it up, but that was a travesty. And I mean, the one that actually scored a 95, I mean, that was bad as it is. But okay, fine. So, it's 2 rounds or something, but I mean, still that was a very bad, very, very, very bad decision. I mean, I know it wasn't a title fight or anything. It doesn't have any tremendous implications. But it was the fight that was right before the main event, and it put a bad taste in my mouth going in. I was like, oh God, I hope they at least get the main event right if they're getting this thing wrong. But so that was pretty disgusting. And by the way, Perez still showed he had a little something left, so maybe they can rematch that fight. Although I doubt they'll be interested in doing so.
I'm getting I've been hearing that Robert Hoyle struck again last night. Last week we said that he should either be investigated or executed. And it took him 7 days, and he's back again with more bullshit. Now we don't know for sure. BoxRec has Robert Hoyle as the guy who gave it to Perez, but I've been hearing from everyone who's watched the fight that it was announced that Robert Hoyle was the guy who gave it 97-93 to Hooker. Adelaide Bird was the other one, so it was one of those two. They're both known for not being very good. Both should probably not be judging. I know Robert Hoyle shouldn't be judging because he's bad card after bad card.
Well, that was something I had the Solis fight from McDonald last week, like wide, wasn't it?
Yep. And I mean, just look at his ledger on BoxRec. It's constantly overly wide cards. He's bad. So yeah, that's the robbery that happened last night, not Kovalev Ward.
Anybody else want to add anything about the undercard? Seb, did you see anything?
I saw bits that was on the YouTube channel. I watched Clarissa Shields. She was fighting this woman who hasn't missed a meal in many days anyway. Fucking hell, she was a bit of a chunky woman, this one, but yeah, super middleweights actually as well. I didn't think she was that bloody big, but yeah, I suppose she was okay. People were pissed that she wasn't shown on the pay-per-view segment of the card, I suppose. Two-time Olympic medalist, former world amateur champion and stuff. So you would think it maybe your most successful female amateur star, you think you would maybe get a wee bit more kind of, airtime, I suppose, but she never got it. I meant to watch some of the Kazakhs or the Azerbaijanis that were on that card as well, but as I say, I kind of like dozed over on the couch and stuff, so missed out on that one. Stevens Ross, I think that was first on the card. I think I maybe watched about 6 rounds and I kind of like, that's when I kind of dozed over. So
Stevens was fucking shit.
Was it?
He was awful, man. That's one of GGG's prestige wins as well. I just had to get that.
Oh, you bet you can't throw in Golovkin hate the night, mate. No, after what happened last night.
I heard that Stevens dropped the guy and then injured his hand. I didn't see the fight, but I guess the hand injury was used as an excuse for his sort of lackadaisical performance for the rest of it.
Right, unless there's any other comments on the undercard, I think we shall jet across the pond to Saturday night, a show that I actually watched on Box Nation. I know Andy was struggling to get hold of this one on the night.
Finally got it.
You got it, yeah. Marco Huck against Dimitrio Kucha. It was the International Boxing Organisation title was on the line. I think Huck was supposed to be fighting McKenzie at one point for that one. Kucha, the guy who knocked out Macronelli, he lost, if I'm right in saying, to Makubu. Is that right? Am I getting this all right, Andy?
That's right, mate. I think he lost it was either a split or a majority in Monaco, I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah. I mean, as for this fight, Huck looked a little bit podgy to me. He's the guy who's been along for bloody ages. I can remember him beating up Lee Swaby on one of the German undercards. Still has the same sort of style, likes to put the hands up and then let punches go. And it was the 8th round, actually. Smido was giving us a little round by round on the direct chat. And it was the 8th round that Kucha was pretty badly hurt, wasn't he, Andy? It looked like Huck might be able to get him out of there. The old Huck might have got him out of there. This one let him see the fight out. What was your general impression?
Well, I thought Kucha did pretty well, I suppose, for about round 3 onwards, kind of middle rounds. But as you say, he got tagged pretty hard in the 8th, and it looked like he was all at sea. It looked like he was going to get stopped as well. But, as I've said in the past, I've mentioned this about Marco Huck as well. Is he's not as active as he used to be. He used to fight 3-4 times a year, which is natural. I mean, he's getting older, of course. But as a elite cruiserweight at the top level, I think that day is now past. He's still going to be in around the top 10, no question about it. But I think a rematch with Lebedev, which I did think he beat Lebedev at the time of the fought, but I think now I think Lebedev might beat him. He did have moments that says that he was, Huck was always a fighter who kind of came on late in rounds. He used to kind of like a trip every 30 seconds in the end of the round. He always came into action. He always wanted to kind of do damage. Last night he kind of started, pretty early. And you often wonder if his stamina was going to hold up, but it seemed to do. He's still as crude as ever, I suppose. He's never going to change, but as I say, he's definitely past his prime now, unfortunately. But always been someone you enjoy watching. Someone who's always been value for money. Always brings his best anyway. But where he goes next, I know he says he's got this IBO trinket, sorry. So you just don't know what he's going to be doing next up at Cruiserweight. I don't know if he's still in the top 10 in any other bodies or whatever, but still some good fights. The Cuban guy, is it Dorca? He could fight him. maybe Diablo. I think he's actually having. Diablo's actually got some sort of issues, mental health issues. So I don't know if he's actually going to be fighting again at any other point. But Kuba's going to get
Tony Bellew.
I don't know. Nah. You think so?
Why not? I mean, he's getting old. I feel like I didn't see the fight, but after his sort of lackluster performance against a guy who lost to the guy Tony iced, Tony might be licking his chops.
Maybe, but then you could also maybe look at a Glowacki rematch who lost his title to Usyk. So
yeah, that's a good one.
I think there's definitely options for Hook there. I mean, let's say, well, you've got obviously Vidal if he can get his shit together. Glowacki, maybe Dorqua, if he wants a title shot. I don't know about Masternick. I'm sure he's maybe retired now, but he's an also run. He's maybe at a European level at best. Machunu who was he in talks to be fighting shortly? Was it Usyk?
Yeah.
It's Usyk. I'm pretty sure it's Usyk. So he's out of the equation. Mickey Nielsen is a Sirlin fighter. I know Hook's left Sirlin, so maybe that fight doesn't happen. Maybe Ramirez, the guy who fought Mackenzie.
Is Tony looking to give Bradis the swerve, or maybe Eddie more to the point? Didn't he say something a few weeks ago that if the money makes sense, the Bradis fight would happen?
Yeah, that guy's definitely in his prime and rising, so I can see why he would avoid
Bellew, I'm pretty sure, basically stated that there's no money in the fight. Because I'm sure I actually took a snapshot of his tweet and his comment and tweeted it out. It says, modern boxing, if there's not enough money, fight's not getting made. If it's going to be David Hay fight, obviously there's going to be a lot of money in that pot there that could maybe just take a wee chunk of it out and pay Bradis off for like maybe 6 months or whatever. But then you just don't know if the WBC are going to allow it. Maybe they're going to like stick with the rules and say, look, that mandatory's going to happen. And I don't know if I'm right in saying, but has WBC not said 90 days to get a deal made there yet? I'm not too sure, but you just never know what they're going to do.
I mean, how much money was there in the BJ Flores fight? Come on.
Well, what did Flores take for that? $50,000 maybe? I mean, Eddie likes to kind of bring them in cheap,
$50,000 too much for that fight, Andy.
Yeah, I suppose, mate. A pack of Watsits or something like that.
Yeah, I think Bellew's nailed on. They're trying to make the Hay fight, aren't they? I can't see the Brady's fight happening, but if it doesn't happen and the Hay fight doesn't happen, I'd then be very curious to see where Bellew goes. I wouldn't be averse to seeing him fighting Marco Huck. Huck hasn't got really any trinkets to bring to the table these days, but he still has a fairly recognisable name. He has that IBO strap. I remember we did, Carl Thompson used to carry that about, didn't he? But whenever Johnny Nelson won it, Andy, if you remember on Punches from the Past, he dropped it straight away. He didn't want anything to do with it. So it's not going to bring much bargaining power to the table.
No, I was just going to say as well, I mean, last night, I don't know if it was sold out, but it was a sizable crowd in there last night, and it seemed to be quite full, so we just never know. It seems that the Huck's still a draw.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a decent fight. Anybody else see it? Any more comments on Huck?
Casuals
everywhere, Andy. You can't get away from them. Right. We're going to have the Lomachenko chat later against Walters. That's November the 26th, to my knowledge. Now, I know Seb broke down the jab last week. I'm looking him to do lateral movement this week. So if you're thinking about whether you should stay on the call or not, you better do that. That's a fight you're definitely going to be looking forward to, isn't it, Seb? Lomachenko Walters, which we'll be discussing in depth later on in the show.
Well, do you want me to wait till then?
Yes.
All right. Yeah.
Kind of
looking forward to it.
Yeah. Good man. Stay with us. Right, what fights do we have? Saturday night, I was sat watching a VIP boxing stream. Tommy McCarthy against Matty Askin. Really good fight, actually. Askin won the fight. I'm not disputing that at all, even though I wanted Tommy to win. Way past the deadline, couldn't get the fight in, but dropped a couple of times in the 5th round, Tommy. And now Askin will fight Craig Kennedy for the vacant British Cruiserweight title. A couple of decent fights on the undercard from what I could see. The problem was the stream kept on going down, but I know that some of the guys listen to the show and it's not their fault. Like the big guy Claymaker was on the commentary with John Evans and all these boys, and fair play to them. They did a really good job on commentary, and there was a young lad as well doing the scoring and stuff. And if they can get the stream sorted out, it's definitely going to be something for the future. Apparently they're going to be showing it on Sky channels and Freeview in future. So the more boxing on telly, the better. And Steve Wood's doing a good job. So fair play to everybody involved there. Right, let me quickly get this tab up as best as I can. George Groves, Friday night, Channel 5, bit of boxing after you get home from work against Edward Gutknecht. On the undercard, Andrew Selby knocked out Jacob Bornia. Ronnie Mittag beat Conrad Cummings, rather controversially, possibly. And Tamuka Mucha beat Paddy Gallagher via a majority decision. Andy, we were talking about this on Twitter earlier on, and you had exactly the same feelings as me on this one. I was starting to get worried for Gutknecht. I don't want to be one of these idiots who says, he should have been pulled out, he should have done this, he should have done that, because we're the same people who are saying, why did the ref stop this at this time? You know, I have to let the referee do his thing. I know Fat-Tell isn't the best referee in the world, but he made a decision to let Gutknecht carry on. But I was thinking by the 9th or 10th round, Andy, and you were thinking this too, I was thinking Nick Blackwell. That's what came into my head. I just felt like Gutknecht was taking too many shots, and I think he had to go to hospital afterwards to have some kind of bleed fixed or something. I don't know what it was.
Definitely, mate. I mean, I didn't tweet it out either because, you know, you just know in situations, especially after what's happened and that, people will then, you know, they get a bit pissed off and that, you know. So I didn't really bother mention it, but I did mention to you guys, it looked like between maybe the 8th and the 9th round, I kind of thought, well, there's not really much point in this fight going on because he was tough, good night, no question, mate. I think Adam Abramovich was basically asking me questions about this fight. And I says, look, listen, this guy's he's tough, he's upright. He'll come forward, and that's what he was doing. Even though there was no point in the fight really kind of going on after like 9th or 10th round and stuff, he kept trying to kind of stay in the fight. Kept trying to, you know, he was taking hellacious shots. You know, Petty Adams know he had kind of shot Groves actually. I know he wasn't impressed. At the same time, he was giving Groves a bit of problem. Groves looks like he's lost at sea. You know, when he's under pressure and stuff. He's okay, kind of coming forward. Decent, you know, well, no decent, but world-class job actually, in my personal opinion. But you know, there was times in that fight he was getting a wee bit kind of raggedy when Gutknecht was putting it on him. But then he was starting to find his right hand constantly and stuff, and yeah, it was difficult to watch it sometimes. You know, I didn't have the same kind of feeling as I did when I watched Lebedev against Jones. There was really not much point in that fight going on, but. As I understand it, I think it was Ron Lewis that kind of tweeted out that said that he's had an operation to remove a brain bleed in his stable. So I think that's the latest. We don't know. You know, obviously, they want to speculate, but it's bad. I mean, it's been a bad year for boxing in that regard. You know, we've had Nick Blackwell, we've had obviously Mike Powell as well. So Mike Towell, sorry. It's been difficult. Hopefully, I know it's Energy Heady, people are taking the piss and stuff, but if that's really his nickname and stuff, then you know, all the best to the guy. Hopefully, he pulls through. But it's obviously his career's probably going to, you know, it's going to end and stuff. But if it is the end of his boxing career and he does, you know, make some sort of full recovery, you know, he needs to be remembered as being one tough son of a bitch because you know, he took it all and he kept coming. And it says it might have been mercy, should have been shown by the referee, but really. Was Gutknecht really kind of showing him any major signs? I mean, although he was taking the shots, he kept coming and stuff. I think his corners are going to be the one that's going to basically kind of, you know, pull him out of that fight.
Once the eye started getting bad, Andy, then maybe the corner should have thought about it.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. You know, save him for another day and stuff. I know it was potentially on the cusp of a world title fight after this one. Maybe they thought he was going to get lucky by a shot. Maybe because they thought that Groves gasses and fights going down the stretch. His chin's slightly shaky. You know, they could maybe pull it out of the bag, but you know, as you say, 8, 9, and 10, that was probably the right opportune time to pull him out of that fight. There was no need for him to kind of go on after that, and it's just a case his trainer being too brave and the fighter being too brave for his own good. You know, some chin, and it's probably going to cost him.
Yeah, on this particular occasion, I'm not going to shit on Fat Terry, but Justin Headlow sent a message in on Twitter and he says, is Fat Terry's ability to prematurely stop a fight decreasing in direct proportion to his weight? So I noticed Terry has dropped a bit of beef, Andy, but quite sure about that one. As for Groves, I thought Groves did okay. I thought he let the shots go well. Didn't throw his jab as often as he could have done, and he has got a very good job, actually. But the one remaining question with Groves is his gas tank, and we won't really tell whether his gas tank is that good. I know they were saying in the commentary, oh, this has maybe put that to bed. But if you're in against a guy who you're pounding at will for 12 rounds and he's not really throwing anything back for the last 6 rounds, it's hard to tell whether your gas tank is going to hold up against the better fighters because it hasn't done in the past. Donnie, don't worry, I'm not going to put you on the spot too much about this one, but just the wider picture. Groves won one of these WBA international frigging trouser belt things. He's way up in the rankings with them now. I think Dick Carolise holds one of their titles. Fedor Chudinov, the better of the 2 Chudinov brothers, holds another one. I think that's the route Groves is looking to go. Where do you see him on the wider picture, particularly in relation to the WBA route? Do you think he can finally win this coveted world title? Will it even be a world title if it's a WBA?
Well, I know. I'll just say this. All I know is that his fans don't seem to leave him, despite all the failures he has.
That's true, actually. That was true because that was a fair-sized crowd he had in there. Actually, yeah, I think the arena was actually half closed off. Actually, but he still had a decent crowd in.
Yeah, but I mean, people, and when he fought on the, was it one of the Floyd undercards where he fought over in Las Vegas, and all the Brits just followed him over to to go watch him in Vegas. I mean, he's got a committed fan base, so I'm sure that he'll continue to get opportunities, and I'm sure that one day he will be able to pick one up. So, with WBA. There's always means that there's a couple of opportunities to do so. So,
well, to be honest, mate, if he doesn't do it this time, especially the WBA route, if he doesn't do it this time, he's never going to happen. I think Barry McGuigan basically said the same thing on Thursday. I think it was Thursday at the weigh-in or the final press conference on Wednesday.
Is there ever the opportunity though for the DeGale rematch, or is that? I know it's always sort of out there in the.
Yeah. It's no D. Carlis, Steve. It's the champion anymore, or the super. I think it's Tyson Zuga, because D. Carlis got beat a couple of weeks back.
Oh,
I forget what title he holds in now. I don't know if it's a super or the regular.
I was going off memory there.
Aye.
Yeah.
But just say that he does pick up this title. If you look at the WBA rankings, there's nothing really there as well. It's actually mouthwatering. You got Isaac Ekpostal hanging around at number 4. Stanislav Kashtatenov, he's been kicking around for ages. Anthony Darrell, we've not seen much of. Feigen Boots, another Sterling fighter. That's a potential fight, in-house fight they could make.
Yeah. Seb, we've spoke about this before, and I know that you may be in the same sort of opinion as me, but they're desperate to get Groves a world title, just like they're desperate to get Murray one and Smith one. They don't have a divine right to win a world title. If you're losing all these fights at world title level, maybe you're just not world class, and it's just not meant to be. Seb?
Yeah, I agree with you. What can I say? It's guys like Groves. I don't mind Groves having one more crack. It's guys like Murray who are just Murray got so fucking overrated, didn't he? There was a time when people thought Murray was a legit contender, that they thought he was like a world-class guy. Everybody shits on Murray now because he's affiliated with Matchroom. But back when Murray wasn't a Matchroom guy, everyone was like, oh, Murray's pretty good, isn't he? Murray could give Golovkin a test. Murray could be Golovkin's sternest test today.
You always got to shit on Golovkin's
I always
win.
got to shit on Golovkin, but why not? Because, he's really easy to shit on, and he deserves it, doesn't he? We've just had these two wonderful men battling for our enjoyment. The best fighting the best. And then we've got this fucking Fassi hole who fucking don't want 10 million. He wants a percentage. And he don't want to fight Andre Ward.
Never mind Ward doing that. You just go with Groves, mate.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, back to Groves. I don't mind Groves having one more crack at it, Let him have one more shot. Would he be fighting Chudanov, right?
Chudanov or maybe Zauga.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's all right, because it's a fucking meaningless belt anyway. So, let him have it, It's a piece of paper. So, let him have the crap strap and make him happy. He's never had a belt, has he? A world title belt, Groves. He's fought a couple times for it, hasn't he? 3 times for it in total. Never got it. So make the boy happy. Make this Ninja boy happy. He can have one more crack. Martin Murray's had how many? Martin Murray's had fucking shitloads. Come on, let's give Grosey another one. Come on. Give the Ninja boy a shot. Come on.
I think Martin Murray basically he get overhyped over the Sergey Martinez fight.
Sturm, and then that fucking Cripple Tinez fight where Sergio he was already coming off one knee injury. He was fucking done. As soon as I saw Cripple Tinez in that Murray fight, I thought, oh shit, he's being done by the guy who fucking lost. Well, not lost, but had fucking problems with Sergei Kamitsky. Martinez is done. Golovkin will walk straight through that old cripple. And that's what would have happened. And I like Martinez. He was a good champion, and he represented the sport well. But he was fucking done by the time people were calling for Golovkin to fight him. But yeah, sorry, I'm getting a bit.
No, it's okay.
Wild.
Okay. I'm gonna give Dave Lowe back the final word on this. Dave, James DeGale fighting Badu Jack soon. Both have previous beef with Groves. Groves obviously beat DeGale, lost fairly, in my opinion, to Jack. Do you think the winner of that would be interested in Groves if Groves were to pick up one of these WBA trinkets in a big all belt unification showdown?
Absolutely, I think that's good. Loser could fight Andre Darrell, perhaps. I don't know if Darrell even fights anymore, but I did kind of want to see the Darrell have another crack at DeGale, because that was a close fight. But I would expect Jack to nick this DeGale fight, and he probably will be interested in a Groves fight. DeGale would definitely want the Groves fight back because he wants to avenge that loss. He knows it's a massive payday, and he can probably win it, especially with the form the shaky form that Groves has been showing lately, and the improvements that DeGale's made since they last fought. So I would be interested in that rematch for sure, provided DeGale beats Jack, which I think is slightly less likely than Jack beating DeGale. But I'm glad that fight's happening either way. DeGale Jack is a good one. Good unification. Is it still a unification, or did one of them get stripped? I don't know.
No, it's unification, mate. It's for the ring title as well, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I'm looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm not going to get into it now too much, but I have put my neck on the line. I'm a Badu Jack fan. I think he's a decent fighter, and I expect him to beat James DeGale. Throw your hate at me if you will, guys. I
actually agree with you, Steve. I think Jack's a little bit underrated. I think when he got sparked by was it the Edwards kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, when he got sparked by that guy, where everybody wrote him off. Remember, everyone was like, "Oh, the money team." You know, it was the whole money team guy. Everybody written Jack. Oh, it happens. It happens in the sport. And I actually think he's a good middleweight for what super middleweight is now, which is a particularly high talent bar. He's a good solid fighter for that for what that division is right now. And I like the DeGale fight. And then they've overcooked it a little bit. Should have happened a bit sooner. But that's a good fight. And I agree with you, Steve. Jack's a good little fighter.
Excellent stuff. Very shortly, we're going to bring our preview for next week of Lomachenko Walters forward. We're also going to race through a few of the Twitter and Facebook questions we've got. And I'm going to throw out a few Bellew of the Weeks, as I said earlier, intermittently. Before we do so, anything else from the weekend that I might have missed? It's been a packed weekend of boxing, guys.
Anything on that Channel 5 undercard, mate?
I'm not a big Andrew Selby fan. He bores me. I'm just going to come out and say it. No offense to anybody listening, but I don't know what you think of him, Andy, but I'm just not interested in his fights. Simple as that.
Well, I didn't really catch it, mate. I had back and issue going on with the family and stuff, but as I says, I think the opponent, I think I've maybe seen him once before, actually. I certainly recognise the name. I'll need to go and try and check him out again, but the guy, if it is who I think it is, he isn't any great shakes and stuff. I know they're trying to keep Selby busy or whatever. I really don't know what the next step is with him, actually, so to speak. I don't know if he's going to get the British title outright and stuff, but I think the way they're going to go, I think he's still at flyweight and stuff. They need to try and get some of these tough Mexicans across and stuff and that, because if they're going to keep him busy, we've got to try and get some kind of meaningful opponents and stuff, because I think this is the type of guy who might not stagnate as such, but I think if he gets opponents that are kind of way beneath his level, I think he kind of fights down to it. And that's when he can come a cropper sometimes, because we saw it with Reece McFadden in the Commonwealth Games and that, First 2 rounds he kind of gave away because he was number 1 ranked fighter in the tournament at his weight at that time, and it was a huge upset. So maybe it's all about level opposition in order to try and get the best out of him.
No problem. Right, quick bit of light relief, guys. I'm going to throw out 4 Bellew of the Weeks. A good one from Kurt Ward came in, actually. I don't know if anyone's seen Oscar. He's now sporting a pedo tash at the moment. He seems to have grown this little Movember number.
Has he got his tights on as well?
I don't know. I haven't seen them.
Yeah, he looks like that fella on the front of the coffee mug. Juan Valdez.
Fuck's sake.
If you haven't seen it, I do try to put as many of these as I can on the Facebook page. So if you go along and like the Facebook page and do all the usual things as well. But I always put a good selection of about 10 or 12 Bellew of the Weeks, and so you can see them for yourself. They're often a bit funnier when you can actually read them. Simon Alavey sent this one in, a Bellew of the Week from Johnny Nelson. I don't think Triple G has good footwork. Well, personally, I mean, you can say a lot about Triple G, Andy, but for good footwork, that's one thing he does have.
He cuts the ring off pretty well. I mean, I know people were saying last night, I'm taking off topic here, folk were saying that Kovalev is, he's got poor foot movement. Maybe he's got poor foot movement in the terms of trying to close down the ring and stuff, but as an attacking force coming forward, I think he's got pretty good foot movement, especially the way he tries and shifts his punches and shifts his weight across and stuff. But if one thing alone, Golovkin's got fantastic foot movement. Just the way he kind of puts pressure on you without actually even throwing punches, just by kind of like manoeuvring you, kind of like stepping back. Another fighter I think has also got good foot movement is Roman Gonzalez, because he always seems to kind of come back in a kind of L position. He always seems to be on target, always seems to be on balance. So he'd be another one with another great foot movement.
Mm-hmm. Couple of nominations for Gareth A. Davis this week. Apparently, he's been committing some verbal crimes. First one in from the Boxing Inquirer, one of our friends on Twitter. Value of the Week nomination. Gareth A. Davis said that Lomachenko is more worthy of pound-for-pound championship status than Ward or Kovalev.
Okay.
Not sure that one works in. And the final one for this short segment is for the Lord of Terror on Twitter. Whether he was trolling or not, we don't know. We always have to run this risk during Value of the Weeks. The man himself, Tony, said to Andre Ward, "The very best of luck, champ, goes out to you tomorrow night. I'm tipping you to win this fight." And then he showed a picture of himself with Andre. And Lord of Terror said, "To be fair, you, as in Tony, are number one pound for pound, and he is number 3. So he's not on your level, my man." Hashtag Creed. So it sounds like a bit of a troll, that one, Andy, but we'll give
Yeah.
that
Yeah, I think that's a troll. He was number 1 pound for pound in the movie Creed. So
fair enough. Well, let's chuck this question out. This is going to involve everybody. I'm going to ask you one portion each of this one from Simon Wells. He says, question for next week's pod. On the back of Seb's Andre Ward rant last week, which active fighter do the panel believe to be the best in the game, quote unquote, at throwing each of the 4 basic punches? So who is the best, basically, at throwing these punches in the game? So first of all, to you, Dave, who throws the best jab in the whole of boxing? In any weight, who has the best jab?
So what are the 4 basics? The jab, the straight right, left hook, and
He's
then...
got the jab, the cross, the hook, and the uppercut. I'm giving you the jab.
Okay. Best jab might be Usyk actually right now. I haven't seen enough of him, but I mean, based on Kovalev and Ward both had a real battle of the jabs last night, and both had moments of success. Best
Recent
jab.
years, although he's retired now, Mikhail Kessler had a jab of beauty.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he used that to beat Frock in the first
I'll
fight.
tell you who had a very good jab as well, and this is lower down the rankings. I remember watching a good few years ago a certain Kevin Johnson sparring Martin Rogan up in John Breen's gym in Belfast, and I tell you what, for all the deficiencies, that kid could jab.
Back when he used to actually throw punches, and he stopped freaking what's his name, that little Samoan guy, Alex Leopai stopped him, basically beat him up with a jab. I'm going to just say active in the game right now, best jab. Let's give it to Andre Ward. He won the fight, and he used it phenomenally.
Golovkin's got a good jab, so is Brook.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Brooke,
Golovkin definitely, because what he's really good at, what Golovkin's good with doing his job is he can really use it to kind of move you where he wants you to be, and that combined with his footwork, I think he's very good at using those 2 things in combination. And secondly, also, if anyone remembers, I don't know if it was the first, second, or third, but one of the first initial punches that Kovalev hit Ward with last night was a jab, and the jab shook him up.
Yep.
And that's what I remember the HBO guys were saying. They said, yeah, when we talked to Bernard Hopkins about this fight, he said, he goes, I've been hit with, a billion different guys' jabs in my life. He goes, Kovalev's jab, feels like a power punch. He goes, it's harder than you have any idea. And so I mean, and then as soon as they were saying that, then Ward got hit in the face with the jab, and he buckled, even if it was just for a second. But he eventually was able to take that power. But when he just got a first taste of it, it was a shock to him. So the power behind that has to count for something. So if Andre Ward is number 1, then Kovalev has to be number 2.
Andy, I'm going to go for you with the hook, and I'm going to go for Seb with the uppercut. So get your thinking brains on now. I'm coming to you next. Donny, you've mentioned the jab there, but I'm going to hit you with the cross. Who's got the best right or left cross? Pick your fancy in the game today.
So basically, we're talking like a left for a southpaw or a right for a just a straight up. Give me a second on that. Actually, I was hoping you would give me the hook of the uppercut. But, okay, give me a second. I'm sorry.
Don't like to do things easy. Andy, what about the hook? Andre Ward landed a few good left hooks on Kovalev last night. Yep,
a couple of good left hooks. I think like you said, it's in boxing today.
Yeah, today. I mean, well, you can talk about whatever you want, really. Pacquiao, the lead right hook, he started to bring that into his arsenal, didn't he, as a good punch?
Aye. I suppose he's retired now, but Mayweather had a good check left hook.
Yep.
I was going to say Tommy Morris, but he's obviously not present and stuff. I would probably. I'm trying to think back like the old days and stuff. hooks just now. You see, I'm not really watching as much boxing as I used to and stuff, but Andy Lee.
Great shout. I remember him knocking out, was it Carl Daniels with an absolutely fantastic right hook? That's a really good shout.
You know, Julian Jackson's son, John Jackson. Maybe he was getting beat up for 5 rounds and just, you know, I had to try and watch that hook about 4 times to see it actually land because it just, you know, the speed of it was actually unbelievable. Gloughlin's got good hooks.
That's okay, Andy. You've thrown in 4 or 5 there, man. Don't worry.
Golovkin smashed Kell Brook's orbital with a pretty gentle-looking hook. Also,
yeah, I suppose.
Ended Matthew Macklin with a nice left to the body.
What about the uppercut, Seb? Who's floating your boat with the uppercut these days?
Canelo jumps straight to mind with the medium range uppercut. Canelo. Is Zab still active? Because I think we can have him as the most mythologized uppercut. That left uppercut of Zab's has killed more men than I care to think about. But
I don't know if he hasn't. Has it? Yeah.
Well, but he had a lovely uppercut from the outside as well, though. Zab. And let me think. Bernard Hopkins is still active. We'll have him.
Well, but Bute.
Because Bute, yeah, I suppose you got to give me it because he's killed a few guys with that, hasn't he?
Yeah, I like Hopkins. That left hand to the body, you used to throw that like kind of left uppercut.
Yeah, the uppercut
body.
To the body. Yeah, Carl Frotz took that though. Do you remember that?
But he felt it though, mate. He backed up.
Yeah, he did give him a little grin, didn't he?
He did. But if you look at one against, was it Brian McGee and the rematch with Andrade, man, he just absolutely murdered them in the body.
Eubank Jr. likes to throw in the uppercut, doesn't he, as well?
He does.
Is it any great though?
No.
Did Bute take Miranda out with the uppercut as well?
He might have done actually.
Yeah, he did. It was sparked him out cold. I thought Miranda was doing well in that fight, considering he was pretty well tasked.
He showboated right before he got caught, didn't he?
My boy Kessler.
Yeah, he had a good one.
He had a good left hook.
For the question about whether Zab Judah is actually still active, he's slated to fight Tom Bob Anderson on January 21st. So.
Oh, God. He should quit it, man. He's been going for a long time, Zab. He's had an excellent career. It's time he jacked it in, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the answer I was going to give to the cross, by the way, was I think when Deontay Wilder can get you on the opposite side of him and can bring that right hand across, I think that can knock out any heavyweight in the game. That is a devastating punch. I think the most recent example would be when he knocked out that Spilka with that, and almost fucking killed the guy. Actually, I mean, yeah, when he, I mean, he's not the most refined boxer in the world, but when he gets in the right position and he lets that thing go, that is a lethal weapon.
What about Tony Bellew for hooks? Actually, I mean, that's his last 2. I mean, well, obviously the Makubu fight. Was it Makubu? Aye, Makubu. Aye,
yeah.
That was a vicious left hand. I mean, obviously that seems to be his money punch sometimes. Tony, his left hook.
Yep, good shout, Andy, for Tony as well. I think we got quite a few good answers out of that one, actually. So I'm quite pleased. I can't remember who asked the question, but thanks for chucking that one in. We always like questions of that nature. A couple more things just to get out of the way. Chris Eubank Jr. was on Twitter. Chris Eubank Sr. was on Twitter this week, and I noted this one down myself. Not even for Bellew of the Week necessarily, but just a complete lot of nonsense. Someone said to him, Junior needs to get himself to world level first, the shithouse, before he fights anybody. And Senior said, Eubank Jr. is already the best in the world, with the exception of Floyd Mayweather Jr. If he makes a comeback, he's exciting, built, and ready to prove he's pound for pound.
That should win Bellew of the Week.
And Ashley the Zulu sent one in for us as well. Eddie Hearn was discussing, I think they were talking about Callum Smith or something, and Rocky Fielding going to world level. And Eddie dismissed Callum Smith's fight with Rocky Fielding as being a flash knockout. It was a flash knockout, according to Eddie, apparently.
Oh, God. I tell you, I seen an article on Boxing Scene before we came live, actually. It summed up what Eddie's all about. It's all about the greens, all about the pound notes, baby. The first thing he mentioned about a rematch, it makes the most money. It makes the most business sense and stuff. I mean, fucking give it a break, man.
Before we move on, everyone knows that I like a bullshit title, and my friend DDog2014 on Twitter has informed me of a bullshit title fight which took place on Friday, the 18th of November. I don't even know who won this fight. This was sent in beforehand. Over in Russia on a Titov boxing promotion, Bradis Prescott, yes, he's still fighting, went up against Dmitry Mikalenko.
Prescott lost, knocked out.
Interim WBC silver welterweight title, Dave. The interim WBC silver title.
Winning. He got knocked out as well. Just seen this.
He's not going home with that trinket then. I mean, I've heard of some bad titles, but I mean, it's not even a WBC silver, Andy. It's the interim version.
Aye, definitely, mate. I mean, it's prestigious. I mean, Muhammad Ali went to his grave actually, wishing that he won this title. The poor cunt never got a chance to fight for
Yeah.
Whole fire, Donny, I'm coming to you first on this one. From one end of the boxing spectrum completely to the other one. This is a fight that I'm really looking forward to. I was looking forward to Kovalev Ward, and I'm looking forward to this one in equal measure. From the Cosmopolitan of Las Vegas, Nevada. I don't know whether Tommy's staying over to enjoy this super featherweight clash for the WBO title between Vasil Lomachenko, 6-1, and Nicholas Walters, 26-0-1. It's a 5-star fight according to BoxRec.com, and I certainly agree with that. We all know about Lomachenko. Walters, not really sure what's going on with him at the moment. A few promotional issues. He looks like he was trying to sling it from the promoter, and he had that fight with Souza, wasn't it? And he's maybe not looked as impressive as he could have been, and people haven't been too sold on him. But Donny, I'm coming to you first. Proper fight. I was going to say proper title then, but that's just not true at all. It's not a proper title. It's just a stupid WBO title. Who cares? We want to see the two guys fighting each other. Two of the best at the weight.
Well, is this for the? So this is 135, right?
No, it's 130.
Or 130. So we don't have a lineal champion there. Is this the lineal?
No.
No?
Yeah. No, 130. Sorry, what did I say? Did I call it wrong? Anyway, yeah, it's 130, Donny.
No, it's not for a lineal title, no.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, to me, it's the two best guys at 130 fighting each other. You can't ask for anything more than that. And I mean, I think it's going to be a very good fight, or at least it's going to be as good of a test as Lomachenko could possibly get. We all know what that guy brings to the table. I know that Seb isn't a big fan of him, actually, but I think even he'll admit that that Lomachenko will win. But anyways, I mean, I just would like to. One thing I'd really like is I'd like to see Lomachenko's chin tested too. In the pro ranks. And we know if there's one thing Walters can do, he could certainly do that if he connects. But Lomachenko's movement is just so fluid. His combinations are so nice. He gets in, he gets out. He performs very gracefully, and it just doesn't look like boxing is all that difficult for him. And I mean, I think if Walters is going to have a chance, what he's going to have to do is kind of try to bring the kind of fight that Salido brought to him, right? A kind of rough and tumble inside affair, and just try to basically, just not let Lomachenko do what he wants to do. Because if Lomachenko could stay at a distance and just box him and move around a lot, he needs to bring the pressure all the time, and he needs to bring it heavily. And he needs to wear him down and then try to land something big late and just knock him out with one punch, because I think that's Walter's best shot to win. I could be wrong, but I was thinking maybe when I saw the Donaire fight, I think maybe I overrated it just a little bit. I mean, Donaire had jumped up a weight class, and he's also obviously a little bit past his best. So Walters may have been a little bit overrated on the back of that, but nonetheless, I mean, I think it's the best fight we could possibly ask for at the weight. And when you're getting that in boxing, back-to-back weeks, the best fighting the best, at a given weight, I got very little to complain about. So I am picking Lomachenko, but I'm really hopeful that Walters can make it very interesting.
A proper fight, Seb, between two proper fighters. The fight at the weekend, Kovalev Ward, was on Sky. I have made my feelings known. I'm actually a fan of Box Nation, and this fight is on Box Nation. Although they dropped a bollock during the week, as my friend D-Dog pointed out, when they announced Nicholas Walters was fighting Marco Lomachenko.
I did see that.
We don't have to worry, do we, about whether he's Marco, he's Vasil, or he's Terry. This is a proper fight between two good guys. Who are you going for?
I'm going for Lomachenko. I think if, like Donny was talking about, Walters doing the Salido, that's not going to happen, because Salido is a proper marauder kind of infighter, swarmer type. That ain't really Walters' game. Walters' power, for one, has become overrated, because the power that wowed people with Nick Walters was it was little guys. He was when I say little guys, I mean he was doing it against featherweights who weren't legit featherweights. You're talking about Little Vic, And you're talking about Nuthouse, who was way over his optimum weight. You know, he knocked those guys on the head and put them down. But you saw him against, I forget the fella's name.
Sosa?
No, South American fella who he fought at featherweight. He missed the weight.
Is that Mariaga you're talking about?
That's the fella, Mariaga. I mean, we saw a natural featherweight in Mariaga, and he was rocked a couple of times against Walters, but he took the shots. And you saw Sousa at 130 pounds. He was able to take the punches pretty well. Lomachenko is was a fairly big featherweight himself. Obviously not as grossly big as Nick Walters, but he's a fairly decent sized featherweight, and he fills out well into super featherweight. I mean, he's shown that he's rugged enough. I mean, Walters isn't going to tall-chock him with one shot. So basically, the whole thing is all Lomachenko needs to do is keep this in the middle of the ring, just keep it turning. The way to beat Lomachenko is to put him to make him fight on the back foot, because he can't do that. He has to reset all the time. You pressure him, you put him on the back foot, and he's constantly having to reset. But if he can keep turning in the middle of the ring, he's in his element, and he'll be able to do that against Walters. The only thing I can see Walters doing, like if you were to say a key to victory for Walters or anything like that, is just try and touch the body as much as he can, and he needs to try and get his jab going. You know, we talked about Kovalev needing to engage his jab. Well, Walters is really going to need a good long jab, you know, a good useful long jab. But as long as Lomachenko is able to keep it turning in the middle of the ring, I don't see how Walters has got a chance to win this fight. Really, you need to back Lomachenko up and take him out of his element and make him constantly reset, because he cannot fight fluidly off the back foot. He can't. He's got to be in the middle of the ring doing his thing and turning. But Walters ain't the guy to do that. Salido was the kind of guy who could do that, and you saw. I mean, I think Lomachenko will have improved a little bit since then. You know, we know he's improved a bit, but it's still that kind of fighter who will trouble him. You know, someone who can put him on the back foot, make him constantly have to reset and show his kind of amateurish tendencies. You know, he's looking a lot more smooth, and the matchmaking's good with Lomachenko right now. And I don't think Walters is going to be any exception. This fight's going to make him look real good. So there you go.
I have to favor Lomachenko as well, but one thing that isn't underrated or isn't overrated about Walters, I agree his power's overrated, but his jab is good, and we saw that to significant effect against Donaire. I think his boxing is better than he gets credit for, because of the power is such a wow factor for some people. I mean, he didn't budge Sosa, so I mean, I think the knockout is not something he should be looking for, not trying to load up. He should try to box and pressure, and the jab can help him do that.
Dave, actually, while you're on point, as you always are, the official voice of American boxing, I was name dropping a fighter in recently whenever Kugan Cassius was on the line, Michael Nunn, and I'm going to use this opportunity to mention him again, because Nunn used to do something that Lomachenko also does. He used to have this little move where his footwork was that good. He used to move around the opponent while throwing punches. You would almost get the impression that he was like there was 4 or 5 of him around the opponent. He was banging in these punches, and he was moving actually around the guy while he was doing it. And the opponent must have thought that he was being surrounded. Nunn did this really well, and Lomachenko did this really well. Now, what I'm saying is, rather than this one nuanced move, the question I'm asking you is, Lomachenko, his skill, his ability to evade the punches. We've all seen those videos on Facebook where they slow it right down and the opponent's punch goes flying off past his shoulder. He's just such a technically skilled guy, so superior to the level of opposition he's been facing over the recent fights. I know he's only had 7 fights, but I just want to have a Lomachenko love in here, Dave. He's just technically amazing.
Okay, I will give Lomachenko all the love in the world if he looks as good as he has next week. I don't rate most of the opposition he's faced. Martinez, I guess Rocky Martinez is his best win, right? And Rocky Martinez is probably on the slide. Pretty one-dimensional. Slow. Definitely slow. You know, I don't think that's the greatest win in the world, although he did do it in fantastic style. Sort of like Roy Jones. Like he would just knock guys out who weren't any great shakes, but he would do it in fantastic style. And that right now is what I see out of Lomachenko. If he can look really good, I guess I got to give him big credit for that Gary Russell Jr. win. I forgot about that one. That's probably his best win. But he didn't really do that in that beautiful of a style. He pretty much just schooled him with a straight left hand every time Gary would just run in with one of his little flurries. Michael Nunn, I think Michael Nunn was justifiably compared to Muhammad Ali. Didn't he have Angelo Dundee in his corner for like it wasn't? And Dundee wasn't just a guest trainer for him, like he did for
Yeah,
some guys.
he went to Dundee from the Goosens, didn't he? Joe and Dan and all them, Mr. Denham. They had him originally, I think, when he won the title off Frank Tate, and then I think he went to Dundee as his career. He was with Dundee when he lost to Tony, I think.
Yeah, Dundee was good for him, I think, and Michael Nunn had some flaws, but he was definitely he was a fair shout to call him like Ali. I think his chin let him down, like Ali's never really let him down. I don't really see that much similarity between Lomachenko and Nunn, though, as far as how they fight. There is that one move, which
that one move was all I was really saying to be. Yeah.
If he does that move against Walters, if he's able to successfully do that, that's pretty impressive. Because Walters, I think, is an underrated boxer, overrated puncher, underrated boxer.
Dave, no, not Dave. We finished with you, Andy. Sorry. I was trying to move the conversation back towards Walters a little bit more because it's been a bit Loma heavy, but I'm unable to do that because I've got a nice little question picked out for you from our friend the Box Bet Monster, who often sends questions in on Twitter. He says, I believe Lomachenko is currently the most dominant fighter in world boxing. What does the panel think? Now, I'm assuming he's obviously talking about dominant inside the ring with stylistically rather than he's dominating the whole division sort of thing.
Yeah.
What do you think about his in-the-ring activities?
He's technically very good. He's obviously, I mean, before he even turned amateur and stuff, we still had the website. I was kind of bigging him up and stuff. He is fantastic to watch. He's got great movement, good hand speed. But at the same time, as Dave alluded to, the opposition is still lacking as such. Martinez, as tough as he is, he's past his prime. Gary Russell was a good win, and I did think that at one point they were going to try and hose him on the cards on that one, actually. And of course, Salido, slightly old man. I had that fight a draw, actually, but for the first six rounds of that fight, Salido just basically old manned him. It was probably the best 6 rounds Lomachenko could have got over the. He learned so much for that Salido fight he's done over the last 6 fights, probably as such. I actually love watching some of the videos of this guy as well. Some of his training techniques and stuff. There was a video of him actually after a 12-round sparring session. He then had to do this mental block thing. He had to basically kind of like maneuver these. It was like dominoes of some sort, and it kind of color coordination and shapes and all that sort of stuff. And the way I understood it was basically to test his mental. If he was tired mentally and stuff, just to see how he'd actually kind of cope having after a 12-round hard sparring session to try and see where he was mentally was, and he was trying to put them all back and all that sort of stuff. It's just weird, but a different way of seeing how someone trains and kind of approaches it and stuff. As for this fight itself, I'll try and get it back on Nicholas Walters as such. His record suggests that he does got a bit of power. I do understand what the guys are saying here about his power overrated. I wouldn't say it's overrated as such, but I think it's. At a certain level, he's got the power. It's when he steps up. I know Darchinian and Daneri knocked out in that, but Vic was way past his prime and he's way past his most comfortable weight. Daner's the same. Daner was never a featherweight, and the size in the end basically told his own story. The Souza fight, I thought he won it pretty clearly. I think even the guys were even mentioning that it was one of the worst scorecards 2015 actually. So, but his resume is pretty much lacking. It basically kind of states it in the odds as well that Lomachenko is basically the heavy betting favourite here. How's he going to do it? I think he will win. I think he'll dominate him as such. I think I'll probably say 116, 112, 117, 111 type of scorecard. Unless Walters basically lands a shot on him. We need to see what his chin's like as such, but I just think he's so good with his lateral movement, his foot movement, the way he kind of pops into distance, as you say, slips to the side, throws hooks at the side as well. He always seems to have this answer as well, whereas he'll try and kind of fake his jab sometimes. He'll try and see what the reaction is of the opponent, and if he sees that the opponent actually react to a certain place, he might throw a punch. He'll then mix it up and throw the punch somewhere else. So basically, he's got the opponent thinking about defence straight away. Okay, that jab's going to come at the body, and then pops a fucking left hook in or a right hook in there, So he keeps his opponents guessing that way. So I can't see past Lomachenko, in all honesty. I know we were looking at this fight doing it featherweight. I think the weight's obviously going to suit both parties, but I think more so Nicholas Walters, because he was really cramming himself down to 126. 2 good fights back to back, over the course of 2 weeks and stuff. But if you look at the odds and stuff, it's not a 50-50 fight as such. It's some people think, well, especially the bookies anyway, and they're never usually wrong that much. But I do expect it to be a distance fight unless Lomachenko is just basically in and out, darting in and out there, making Walters look like a black statue, and basically either make him quit or make a mercy stoppage somewhere along the line. But Lomachenko definitely.
Do you know what else Lomachenko does as well? And I hadn't even noticed this, but it was another video on Facebook someone had put together. Usyk does this as well, and a couple of the other fighters who are trained from the Eastern Bloc. If a fighter's against the ropes with his hands up against his head, Lomachenko, and Usyk does it, actively gets his hand and pulls the opponent's hand down and then hits him. Have you seen that?
I've seen that. Rico does it as well, mate.
Yeah,
I've seen Rico do it. So basically, he's got his jab there. So if you've got your hands up, you can see him. He maybe throws a right hook in there. He leaves his hand in, so he can then drag down the person's left hand or the guard, and then kind of pop in the left straight.
It's like a sticky punch, isn't it?
Was that what you call it, mate?
Yeah, kind of like a sticky punch.
Aye.
Just leave it there. Yeah.
Just basically kind of drag him down. So yeah, I've seen Rico do it. I've seen Usyk do it as well. Aye.
Yeah, something to keep an eye on. Right, Andy's laid his neck on the line. He said who he thinks going to win. I'm going to go to each of the remaining 3 panelists as well and see what get their take. Seb, I'm coming to you first for a change. Now, no Martin Murray, no Press Pass Paul, no Gay Lovekin talk. Just tell us who you think's going to win out of Lomachenko, Walters. Please.
I already told you Lomachenko's got this. One thing I do want to correct myself on, not correct myself, but clarify, is that when I talked about the matchmaking being good for Lomachenko of late, I meant after his first 3 fights. Obviously, he was match tough at the start. Although I do think they probably thought Salido was a bit old and wasted, but that guy keeps going to the well. So anyway, yeah, Lomachenko. I can't see past him. Like a very talented guy. I'm not as high as other people are. I think he's a lot of physical gifts. Very talented guy. I don't think he's the fucking master boxer. Who ate fucking Cincinnati or anything, but he's a very talented guy, and I just think the matchup favors him pretty damn well.
Yeah, I was going to pick you up on your matchmaking thing, but I assumed that's what you meant after the first 3 fights, so we're on the same page here. Right, official voice, Dave.
Lomachenko decision. But I'm going to be rooting for Walters.
Why?
I like the Axeman.
Why'd you like him, Dave?
Because he's black.
And because we don't like Eastern Euros, right, Dave?
Yeah.
Yes, brother. We fucking hate the hunkies. Come on. Come on, Axeman.
No, I just like the Axeman. I think the Axeman's come up the hard way. And I mean, I just don't like these amateur standouts that much. And to be fair to Lomachenko, he's impressed in the pros more so than most amateur standouts like Frankie Gavin and some of these other, and then freaking Zhao Shiming. These guys they come into the pro game with so much hype because of what they did in the amateurs, and the amateurs are a different sport, and so many of them are just duds. So I feel vindicated when the duds just bust. But as for Lomachenko, he's something different, something slightly different anyway. He's proven himself. So I don't hate him as much as these other amateur guys who got all the hype, but Axeman, he had some favorable matchmaking too, to be fair, with getting shot Darchinian and then well past it Donaire. But I still feel like he's more of the everyman's fighter. Plus, I always do pull for African guys. It's been too long since we had a good African, like a really good African great. Like the last one I can think of is freaking.
Is he from Jamaica?
Jamaican, isn't he, Dave?
Oh, he is? Okay.
Yeah, Jimmy. I actually remember this guy. I mean, he complained. It was at Maraga fight. I think he was overweight for it, and he started complaining about how he wasn't getting kept active and basically kind of like putting the blame on Top Rank and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I don't know whose fault that really is. I think there was a lot of theories that Bob was trying to send a message to him by giving him a draw against Sosa because he was like not playing ball, not making the Lomachenko fight, and maybe he was avoiding Lomachenko.
Well, he was asking for $750,000, and I think at one point Lomachenko was even going to cut his purse so he could get the fight made and stuff.
He wanted the even money because he was just like, where our resumes are about equal. Problem is that Bob got himself in a contract with Lomachenko when Lomachenko first came to the pros. Like Al Heyman was out there just signing everybody like crazy. So Aaron was like, well, geez, like I need a guy with like a top amateur pedigree. So he went out and offered him like crazy money. And, you know, a couple of years down the line, now that Heyman has scaled back his signing and scaled back some of even the purses that are being paid out, you know, now Bob is stuck in an expensive contract where he has to pay Lomachenko like a lot of money for every single fight because he already won a title now. So, you know, once you win the title, there's like things in there that, okay, after you win the title, you know, your baseline salary will be, you know, this amount of money or whatever it is. So he couldn't afford to pay both of those guys the same amount of money because he's already losing money on Lomachenko right now, because Lomachenko is like an amazing fighter, but he's not really a huge draw. So I think that was the source of the whole disagreement there that kind of caused this fight to be delayed a little bit, but now we got it. So
That's a good point, Donnie.
I'm not rooting for him anymore. He's not African. If there was body in there, I'll root for him.
Dave, I'm going to have to try and redress this for our listeners, and I'm going to call on everyone here to very briefly come up with some of the great Jamaican boxers of the past. We're going to have to try and sort this out. Obviously, one of my own personal favourites, guys, Mike McCallum, one of the Jamaican greats of all time.
Definitely. Hugely underrated, too.
Oh, yeah. Brilliant fighter was Mike McCallum. Glenn Koff Johnson.
Lennox Lewis. I know
Lennox Lewis.
Tommy would dispute that, but...
You're taking us down a dangerous road here, Dave. Let's just stick to the point. What about O'Neill Bell, Andy? He was Jamaican, wasn't he?
I think he was, mate. Aye, I'm just racking my brain actually. Who's the Jamaicans? Was Mike McCallum? Mike McCallum.
Ruddock moved to Canada, but I believe he's Jamaican.
Yeah, Mike McCallum. Yeah.
Yeah, we already had
body snatcher. Another body snatcher, Dillian White, was born in Jamaica.
The one and only.
Trevor Berbick.
Yeah, Berbick wasn't bad.
Right, I have a list up here. We're going to throw a few. Owen What the Heck Beck. Dave will remember him. Uriah Grant, Oval McKenzie. Simon Brown. Andy, remember him. He was from the James Toney sort of Tyrone Trice. There's another name I've just brought at the top of my head as well. I'm not saying he was Jamaican, but I remember him fighting Simon Brown. I think I do anyway. We're going in a bit of a black hole here. Any Jamaican boxers before we get Donnie's prediction?
A black hole. Steve's racist.
Oh.
Don't forget Oval.
Oval McKenzie, who retired recently.
He's not great, but he's not bad, is he?
Yep. Right, Donnie, save us from this madness. You might have already given us your prediction for Lomachenko Walters, but I don't care. The female listeners love you. I want to hear it again.
I said I'm taking Lomachenko.
Taking Lomachenko. I'm also taking Lomachenko. I'm going to go for a wide decision, and I'm going to say that Lomachenko drops Walters a couple of times as well en route. Controversial. I'm throwing it out there. But it has to be done. Right, at this time, gentlemen and ladies of the listenership, just going to remind you who's on the panel. We have Seb with us tonight, Andy Patterson, Donnie Baseball, and Dave Loback. Don't forget to go over to the Facebook page and like it if you haven't done it already. Why the hell not? iTunes as well, November. Nothing short of 5 stars is acceptable for the whole month of November. And subscribe to the YouTube channel. Do all those lovely things. It keeps Tommy in his beer, Andy. I think he's out in Vegas. We haven't heard from him. We hope he's alive. We believe he's had a good time, and he had Kovalev winning. Am I right in saying that?
I think he did, mate. I think he had Kovalev win the fight. He's been on social media as such, basically stating that pretty much a robbery as such. I need to go back and check it. I should have checked it before I came on there. Hopefully he's okay, because he was to get me a t-shirt, and he fucking better get it for me. See that's the guy Kovalev one with it was black.
Yeah,
I think it was done by Salazar or something like that. I'm fucking sent him on a mission to go and buy it for me, but I'm no very hopeful. If anything, he's probably bought it for me, but then he's fucking lost it. That's
or he wore it to sleep and then wet the bed like he did.
Or he's got up. He's maybe vomited that. He's maybe have to get up and maybe clean his face and that, because he's like, or he's rolled there. He's got a big burger lying inside the bed, so to roll there and fucking wipe his hands or whatever and that, you know.
What size of a t-shirt do you require, Andy?
Well, I was actually saying about this. I think the American larges are usually quite big, so I asked for a medium.
Excellent stuff. We're going to discuss a couple of other things of note. I think there's a couple of other shows next week. I will probably be going to a show in Belfast, so I won't see the Billy Joe Saunders. And then there's one the same night. O'Hara Davis is involved as well. Before we get to all that, I'm going to be furiously flicking through my phone right now. A bit of alliteration for you there. With the Bellews, questions, whatever comes up next on my photograph. A couple of Bellews here. Another one for Gareth A. Davis. He was nominated by Matt Skelton, not the former heavyweight boxer Matt Skelton, but a different one. He said that apparently Davis had the cheek to ask Kovalev about a potential rematch with Cleverly at the Millennium Stadium. More like a public execution.
Jesus Christ. No, man. I know Cleverly's been talking about it, but nah, come on.
Well, if you think that one's bad, Andy, what about this one from Brownie on Twitter? This was sent in by the Doctor of Hate himself, Mr. Monocle Leon from the Boxing Coalition. Brownie said, Callum Smith at light heavyweight, he would own that division. Stevenson, Cleverly, Ward, he could beat them all in style. At Eddie, at Callum Smith.
He's got to be trolling with that one. Monocle's been really hating there the last couple of days there. He's been absolutely raging. I think he was pissed off this morning.
Yeah, I'm worried about him. He's going the Brian King route.
Yeah, I think his wife told him he got off Twitter as well, so that's never a good sign.
I got one for you that's not really, I mean, it's a Billy of the Week, but it's also kind of like tragic comic. So last night, when Roy Jones stepped off air briefly to go do the to be work Chilemba's corner, and then afterwards he comes back and they said, so why did you stop it, Roy? And he was basically giving his explanation as to what happened to the guy's shoulder or whatever, and he goes, I'm always safety first. He's like, well, he goes, I guess except with myself. He's like,
Did he say that?
What?
Did he actually say that?
He did, yeah.
That's pretty good. At least he's self-aware enough to know that.
That means it must be all right.
He
must be coherent enough, Dave, to know that he shouldn't be boxing anymore.
Well, God hasn't told him no yet.
Couple of other ones flying in. Lou DiBella was having to go at the New York Post. Apparently, New York Post were trying to say that boxing will be back if the biggest mega fight can be made between Andre Ward and Canelo.
I seen that actually. He was raging at that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He said, what chances boxing got when you got fucking shit like that getting reported as mainstream boxing press? Andre Ward against Canelo? Fucking hell.
Casuals. No, even casuals know that's bullshit.
But here, Dave, do you not think Canelo would come in on the night weighing more than Ward?
Actually, yeah.
You see, well, actually, the thing is, the next fight, Canelo's going to fight at 157, and then he's going to fight at 158. And so pretty much in about 10 years, he might be able to have a catch weight at about 168. He kind of goes up about a pound a year.
Ben Churchard was having a moan about Paul Smith Jr. this week. Apparently, Paul Smith said that he was talking about Kovalev, and he said, well, English is hard to understand. And Ben said, rightly, have a day off, Paul. How's your Russian? So I thought that was quite a good one.
It was funny, actually. I was rewatching the fight with the mute button on, right? And there was a bit come up at the bottom. Paul Smith special comments, and I swear to God, the guy looked like, he never smiles and stuff. I thought I was going to say to myself, that guy looks like a fucking retard.
Oh, that's kind of special.
Just that kind of special comments at the bottom. You see this guy looking miserable as fuck,
Kevin Watson nominated Malignaggi for Bellew of the Week for a constant retweeting of cunts licking his arse off last night. His timeline was full of it. If anyone gives you praise, Andy, do you ever retweet them?
Sometimes, mate. Depends if I'm on the troll or anything like that. But
I retweet them if they praise the show every time.
Well done, Dave, and we love you for it. This was a good one. This was sent in by quite a few people. Chris Van Heerden, unless I'm having a casual moment, this is the kid who fought Errol Spence a few years ago.
What was that, mate?
That's right. He stopped in about 7 rounds, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Well, apparently he was discussing the Kovalev Ward fight, and it's a great fight by Kovalev Ward. But I had Kovalev winning by split decision. How did you all see it? And then Tom Craze said, "Yeah, I suppose we are all guilty of not scoring across 3 cards in our own head."
I know. Can you imagine? He must have had a Doberman and his fucking pit bull sitting there scoring cards. Give him a nod and he thought Kovalev won that round. Or give him a shake of the head.
Maybe he's got a split personality. And the first voice in his head scored it for Kovalev, and the other scored for Ward.
Hi, Chris. This is your biggest fan. My name is Stan.
Oh dear. Right, let's put that madness to one side. We have a few more questions and stuff, but I'm just winging it tonight. I'm doing Bellews all over the place. I'm doing questions all over the place, and you know what? I just don't care. Right, 10 to 10, guys. Motor Point Arena, Cardiff, Wales. Let's have a quick look down this card. This is something that I know Seb's going to be interested in, so I'm going to let him have first dibs on this one. Billy Joe Saunders versus Arthur Akavov. Liam Williams versus Ahmet Patterson. Not a bad fight. Terry Flanagan, Orlando Cruz.
I thought John Tane was fighting. Liam Williams.
John Thane. No.
He-
John.
Sorry,
I'm
mate.
trying to think. No, it's okay.
Seb was so
Thane-
interested in this card, he fucking hung up. Oh no, there
Oh,
he
is
is.
it?
No, it just went.
Tommy Langford, Sam Sheedy, Thomas Stalker, Craig Evans, Alex Hughes, Harry
Oh,
Matthews. Not
for fuck's
sure
sake.
who
This is the kind of
Thane
shit
is fighting.
I don't even pay attention to anymore because of the way the sport's kind of, this is the kind of thing I would have tuned into religiously once upon a time, and I'm just kind of out of touch with these kinds of cards because they've kind of ground my spirit down, just the sport in general. You know what I mean?
I'm so glad I came to you first. I'm going to actually counteract that, Seb, and I'm going to say, you know what? I don't think this is actually a bad card. If you look at Stalker fight Langford,
What do you like on it?
well,
Stalker and okay.
I wouldn't go so far to say that I like anything really, but I don't dislike an awful lot of it. I mean, as cards go on a Saturday night, you're sitting in front of the telly. Thomas Stalker, Craig Evans rematch. First fight was a good one. Yeah, I'm having that. Tommy Langford, Sam Sheedy. Wow, you know what I mean. That's
You sounded like Eddie Hearn here when Eddie Hearn last week.
Wow. Wow.
Caught me out. Williams Patterson. Yeah, I'm having that as well. Saunders against Akavov. I've made my feelings known about Saunders. Not getting involved in that. And Terry Flanagan, Orlando Cruz. I know, Andy, what you said before. Cruz is more famous for being gay than being any good. But, go on.
That's what I was talking about. John Thane is actually fighting Friday. That's what he's fighting. Bradley Skeet. So I think Boxing Nation got 2 cards on one Friday, one Saturday. So it's Bradley Skeet he's fighting on Friday. John Thane.
Well, feel free to talk about whatever you want, Andy. Friday or Saturday night or neither.
What was that about John Thane?
He's fighting Bradley Skeet on Friday for the British
title.
title.
They got that fight on, did they?
I'm sure I have, mate. But just on that Saturday card, I mean, this guy that Billy Joe's fighting, I've got absolutely no idea who this guy is. I haven't even looked him up, nor has it actually interested me. Williams against Patterson should be a good fight. Battle of the Unbeaten's British title. So I've not seen Patterson for a wee bit, but I'm pretty a wee bit high on Liam Williams, so I'm going to be pugging for him. Terry Flanagan against Orlando Cruz. I mean, Terry, man, you got to win this fight. You got to win this fight, bro. Or Manchester, Rose Street's going to be an absolute brutal place for you to visit. No, but as I said before, I mean, Orlando Cruz is one of these fighters. Big props to the guy for coming out, in a sport such as boxing, saying that you like it up the arse, but. He seems to like want to insistently remind us, and that I have no problems with people being gay or whatever. What you want to do is what you want to do, but then they keep fucking telling me that about gay rights and all that sort of stuff. You go fucking make rights what the straight man's got, so then they start all this fucking piss, So
All right.
You don't see like I guess you don't see like Manny Pacquiao coming in wearing like a vagina on his robe saying, "Oh yes, the pussy."
Yeah, well, he's tasted a lot of pussy, I can tell you, Manny Pacquiao, by the way.
This show's taking a dark turn, but let me say this, right, Andy, you're asking about Artur Akavov, and Akavov's record is every bit as disgusting as you probably think it is. I always think to myself, when I see a guy like this, 16-1, my first thought is, who's he lost to? And his defeat was in his 6th fight against Oleg Lisev, 3-1. We can maybe put that to one side, that's fair enough. Since then, he's won the vacant WBO European middleweight title and defended it 3 times, including against guys who are 11-9-2 and 21-8-1. He won the vacant World Boxing Foundation title against a 27-3 fighter. And in his last fight out in New York in the BB King Blues Club Bar and Grill, he beat Todd Manuel, who is 11-10-1. This is truly the depths.
Legend. I mean, even 2 of his fights were in Estonia. That hotbed of rival boxing legendary fighters that come out of fucking Estonia. The best thing that come out of Estonia was probably like the Soviet tanks or something like that. But fucking hell. I mean, who I forget who they're going to bring in from, but Aldous Saunders kind of pulled out a couple of times injured and all this sort of stuff. But surely Frank can come up with something better. I think Frank's going to say, well, he's not even defended the title yet. Who cares? Surely you can pull in a better piece of scrap than that, surely to Christ. I mean, the guy's pure AIDS. That's the best I can put it.
The most shocking thing about this card is that there's only 2 TBAs and a week away.
Let the hate flow, Dave. Wasn't this the show that Tommy Langford was supposed to be fighting Eubank Jr. originally, or was that a different? That was maybe this show, but chopped up onto something else.
Possibly, but I suppose if anything, if any fight's built to deliver any action or some sort, I think it might be Stalker against Craig Evans. I think these guys have fought twice. I think they maybe fought the draws or whatever. So this is the third fight. So
yeah,
it should deliver some sort of kind of talking points at least that fight.
I'm going to stick by my guns. Putting aside Saunders Akavov, I don't think this is the worst card in the world. I'm talking from a point of view of someone who's sat through, fig me, I don't know how many shows I've been to now over the years, over 150 anyway, and I've sat through some awful shit over the years. And this on paper doesn't look too bad. Right, I'm not even going to say final comments because nobody cares. Wembley Arena next Saturday night. Let's see if we have any more joy with this one. Eddie's running a show at exactly the same time.
Pure shite.
O'Hara Davis against Andrea Scarpa for the WBC silver title. At least it's not the interim, I suppose. Martin J. Ward against Ronnie Clark. He's defending his British title. Winner will fight Anthony Kakachi, who won last night on the Manchester show. That was on VIP Boxing. Ben Hall, no idea who this guy is. He's fighting for the vacant WBC international silver title against Carson Jones. And here's one for our listener, Darren Gelly. Ted Cheeseman is fighting Lloyd Ellett, who is 20-1. Quite who he's been beating, I don't know. Andy, I can tell by your huffs and puffs you're not looking forward to this one.
No.
Katie Taylor's making a debut against Karina Kopinska.
Wow.
But just in general, tell us.
Well, I know Daryl Gilly, the guy on the Facebook page, he goes on about Ted Cheeseman all the time. So that's about as most you'll hear about Ted Cheeseman in this fucking podcast, mate. So I'm glad you finally you got us to say it at least. Ted Cheeseman. There you go. Conor Benn against TBA. I dare say he'll be on the TV segment of the broadcast, no doubt about it. Katie Taylor, I'd imagine, on it as well, mate. It's just going to be 4 hours of complete and utter mundane bullshit. Fucking hell. I mean, Carson Jones, I know this fight's at light middleweight and stuff, but how many times is this guy going to get recycled? Honestly. Charlie Edwards, okay, I can understand him kind of going in with an opponent who's 3-4-1 after the kind of beating he took off Casemiro, so I'm not really going to go too hard on that one. John Wayne Hibbert still got TBA. O'Hara Davis, I would imagine, this is obviously the supposed step up against this Andrea Scarpa. But,
didn't Scarpa beat Hibbert in one of the recent shows?
He did, yeah.
I think it was a damaged eye or something, or maybe a bad cut. But see right. This card is what it is, and it's complete shit, and it should be on Fight Pass. This is what people were meant to be buying Fight Pass for, to get fights like this and stuff, and then semi-decent fights, world title fights as such, on the regular Sky, and they get the super fights on pay-per-view. No, we don't get that anymore, do we? We get fucking garbage like this on fucking Sky, and we get all the semi-decent fights, and maybe sometimes get an elite fighter, not an elite fight, an elite fighter over to stick them on pay-per-view and stack the fucking card. This fucking card is shit.
Well, Donnie and Dave aren't going to have the benefit of this card. They're not going to be able to see it. But Seb, I'm just hoping I'm going to have 30 seconds out of you on this one. Come on. I mean, O'Hara Davis. No?
I'll be rooting for the Paisano, but Davis should win the fight, shouldn't he? Really, but that's it.
Which show would you rather watch if you got the choice? The Sky show or the Box Nation show?
Oh, the Box Nation show.
See, the Box Nation show's good. I told you.
Well, it's relative though, isn't it?
It's true. I mean, I suppose you got a couple of 50-50s there, I suppose.
Definitely.
Would you say Williams Patterson's a 50-50? I mean, it's a really good fight for a domestic level one.
I would favour Williams slightly. I would favour Williams.
Stalker Evans is probably 50-50 as well. What have they got on that Sky card that's 50-50? Fuck all.
Nothing. I think Langford Sheedy will be a good fight,
Maybe Ward against Ronnie Clark, maybe? No,
Ward will probably stop Clark late on, I'd say.
I don't know. TBA might beat Conor Benn.
There's a possibility, Dave. You don't like Conor, do you?
I got no problem with him. It's just funny the hype that he gets when considering he just has no defense and just kind of goes in there and wings.
That's what I say a couple of weeks back on that. I mean, I don't think people actually hate the kid for what he does in that. I think it's just the fact as he gets the big push, he gets the Sky TV dates and that, and he's getting all this airtime. Whilst other guys, didn't get as much airtime. But that's down to Sky though. I'm sure Sky are the ones that kind of like pick who they want to show and stuff. And the guys got the name value, so
I mean, ideally he turns out to be really good, like his dad. I mean, that'd be good for boxing. Another good fighter. I mean, I just don't think he will, but that would be good. Hope the best.
Hope for the best, says Dave. I'm going to bring in a couple more
Oh,
questions as we start to
I was
close
going.
out. Yeah, Andy.
I was going to say, mate, sorry about the belly of the week. I know we're not really kind of getting it out this week and that, but is it all weird how fucking people lost their shit on Monday about the talk about Froch coming out of retirement to fight Golovkin, when if anybody actually kind of took the time to actually watch, just by accident I watched this fucking video between Eddie Hearn and Kugan Cassius, and I think the way Hearn spoke about this actually was Tom Lawford did it as a joke. He tweeted out a picture of him and Hearn having a couple of beers, and they were talking about Froch possibly fighting Golovkin. Next minute, these two are fucking fighting like a couple of strays over Twitter, and all these fuckers on Twitter are all like, "Oh yes, you know," and then everybody's like backing off as to why the fight never happened. Froch retired, and people backed up Froch, and people were then saying Golovkin ducked him and all that sort of shit. I mean, for that for a whole fucking week, it was just a fucking wind up. Froch isn't coming out of retirement risking that nose.
He'll have it insured.
Aye,
So-
fucking better.
We're not doing Belly of the Week officially this week.
I've just been throwing them in to try and mix things up. I mean, a few people have been moaning about Belly of the Week, which I'm not doing it just because of that, but I just wanted to mix it up, drop them in during the show rather than dedicating a 20-minute portion to it at the end and see how it goes. If you're not
Yeah,
happy,
that's fine.
Dave, I'll change it because you
I
know,
kind
listen
of
to
like
you.
it.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I'm good with it. I just wanted to nominate a guy who's been on our show, I believe, once before. Followed me on Twitter for quite a while. He knows his boxing, but this week we got into it a little bit over Tim Bradley. He was talking shit about Tim Bradley. And he's like, Lamont Peterson has one of the best resumes in the sport.
Who said this?
My low place.
Oh, aye, he was tweeting me there actually about coming on the show. I think he's been on before actually. Aye, American
Yeah.
boy.
I mean, that's just, come on. What? He was talking shit on Tim Bradley, who destroyed Lamont Peterson, and then says Lamont Peterson has one of the best resumes in the sport.
Duly nominated, Dave, duly nominated. Just tidying up the previews for next week. I'm not saying anybody has to talk about this, but we've got the show that you were mentioning, Andy. Bradley Skeets defending his British title against John Fane. Boy Jones Jr. fights for a vacant Southern Area title against Martin Hillman. Anthony Yard is on the show as well with Sanjeev Sahota. Lee Markham against Andrew Robinson might be a decent fight. And forget about Conor Benn. We have Harley Benn and also Nathaniel Wilson. Isn't Nathaniel
that's
Wilson
Eubank.
some illegitimate child of Eubank, and Harley Benn
Aye.
is one of Nigel's sons, and it's all getting a bit messy.
I'm noticing that actually. Aye, that's I think Box Nation had a wee segment on him actually. Just see that Anthony Yard, by the way. What do you think about this guy? I mean, he's obviously got power and stuff for this. You know, I know he fought in America recently, but how far do you think this guy will go?
Well, he seems decent from what I've seen of him. I would say initially maybe British title level, see how he goes from there. I know one guy was proclaiming that he was going to hit the top 10 pound for pound at some point, and
I remember
he was getting a
that,
bit of slagging on Check Hook, wasn't he, or something? Do you remember you brought
Aye.
that to our attention? But other than that, don't know. I've seen him against complete bums. How on earth can you really tell anything against the level of opposition he's been fighting?
This is true, mate.
Yeah.
As I say, I'm not going to go too hard on the guy and stuff, but I seen some kind of disparaging comments after that guy knocked out. It was a Liam Smith Canelo card. That's what it was. Actually, it was pretty brutal. But you know, the guy's a physical specimen, no doubt about it. You just wonder as well. Maybe this new BT contract at some point down the line is going to actually, you know, get some good fighters, good opponents as such, in for these guys, because feasting on some of the opponents he's faced. I think this guy he's facing is from Hungary or something like that. I mean, I'm fucking sick of getting these guys across.
Ferenc Albert, he fought
Nah,
Jamie Cox, I think, in Dublin.
I got knocked out in one round. Aye.
Yeah, I was at that. Yeah, that's right.
So if Cox is knocking him out, you know, Yard is, as I say, he seems to be a big puncher as such, especially at that level. So I imagine he's going to take him out pretty soon.
Yeah, no ill will to the kid. I'm just going to wait and see on him, really, see how he develops. Good luck to him from everyone on the asylum. I'm sure I'll speak for everybody on the panel. Right, Wesley Shaw has thrown in a question as quick as we can here, boys, one for each of you. A quick fire question for the panel. Who wins? Seb, Pacquiao versus Brook?
Right now, Kell Brook. Definitely right now. I still rate Pacquiao. A lot of people are, off him now. I still rate Manny. But I think, Kell's fresher. He's young, and he's got the tools to beat Manny. I mean, he's got the physical tools, the size, and he's got egg on.
That was Donny. Just you hear that bang in the background there? That was Donny collapsing. And I thought of Brook beating him.
Yeah, but hey, I mean, would you rule it out? What do you think?
I wouldn't rule it out. I just think he was struggle with. I know he's not at peak condition, but I think he was struggle badly with Manny's speed. And
What
as well
about
as
the
he's
timing?
the
Because Buck's
timing.
got great timing.
He's got a good jab as well. That's the main
Yeah.
thing. But can Manny get inside of it? Can he kind of get his left hand in the middle by stepping on the outside of the jab? He can work the body. I mean, I know Brooks a big dude, and he's kind of long in the body, so you can see Manny's working him there as well, you know. But I didn't see him knocking him out as such. But I would still say Manny would probably still beat him, probably do it 2 or 3 points.
You think
Can
experience
Brook
would
make
count for Manny now?
147 again though?
The experience. That's the one thing. Is the experience factor as well. I mean, we've said it about Brook before, and that, you know, people are saying he's world class, and that, you know, especially after the Porter fight and everything, kind of then fell by the wayside, you know. But at the end of the day, is Pacquiao's fought at that elite level for a long time, and even though what is he 37, he's still developed wee parts of his game and stuff. You know,
I agree with you.
His jab's good.
Manny's one of those guys who just keeps picking it up as he goes along. You know, it's like it's been a long kind of process of building, and even though he's maybe lost some of his a degree of his gifts now, he's compensating a lot with just this gradual accumulation of experience and nous, you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, I'm a Kell Brook fan, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna see.
Nothing wrong with that, Seb. We'll not hold that against you. But continuing on the Pacquiao theme, rather than the Brook fight, I want to check in on Donny here. Check he's still okay after his fall. Pacquiao versus Khan is the second question from Wesley Shaw. Donny.
Khan don't want that fight, baby.
I think he's genuinely hurt. Donny, are you okay?
Donny.
Donny's hung himself. Andy, do you want to take that one up? Pacquiao versus Khan, or we tried to get Donny back on the line?
Pacquiao versus Khan. That is one of the fights I would be very, very confident that Pacquiao would break that KO streak that he's not had. You know, I think it was Cotto the last stoppage. I think so. I think he would finally get a stoppage this time round about. I know he's going to have some sort of problems with the speed and stuff, but Khan fights in straight lines, and Pacquiao will just kind of step to the side and just dig him one. And fucking the smell of cheese off your German helmet would actually knock Amir Khan out. So come on, you know, Manny Pacquiao's got nothing about him to knock him out still.
Donny, are you back with us yet? I'm starting to get worried about Donny. Donny's in America, Dave. You're also in America. Can you go knock on his door and check he's all right?
I don't know. Oh, he lives in Connecticut. That's like 7-8 hours away from me driving.
Yeah, but watching the Patriots getting the game now, that's what he would do.
Yeah. Right, Dave, forget about the Patriots game. Groves versus DeGale, the rematch.
Groves, DeGale, the rematch. Well, I touched on it earlier. We just saying who wins. Yeah. For me, DeGale.
What about Groves, Callum Smith?
Groves.
Crusty neck. No, I'm going to have to go with Groves that one actually, but I guess it's one of the things, man, about Callum Smith. I mean, he's got himself in a world title shot as such, you know, #1 contender, whatever it is, but he's never really fucking fought him. I mean, she just doesn't know what. As I say, Groves isn't like proved that he's anything great. I know Speedo would be saying he's C class and all that sort of stuff, but you just don't know, what's going to believe for Smith when he steps up in class either. He's not fought any cunt.
No, good point, Andy. Good point. While we try and get Donny back, I'm really starting to get a bit worried about him now. I hope he's okay. A question from I Am the Barman. I'm going to answer this one myself. He says, does there need to be a change in the way fights are scored or judged, and what viable alternatives are there? We've discussed this many times on the Asylum. No offense to you, Barman, but we've come up with different ideas, and I don't think there's anything that we've all unanimously been agreed on, and it's a very difficult one. But in the light of decisions going for or against our favourite fighters, as happened over the weekend, these questions do rear their ugly head. Andy, George Atwell's got a question that's right up your street. He said, I've just watched Assault in the Ring, the documentary with Luis Resto. What are your thoughts on who really is guilty? And has there been any other tragedies or conspiracies that are as extreme? I don't think anything's been as extreme, but whenever it comes to controversies, the older Pryor, Panama Lewis thing always comes into my head.
Margarito pops up. I mean, there's Jack Dempsey against the... Who did he win the title from again? Willard. They were talking about him and Plaster Paris and stuff. Yeah, just on that documentary itself, actually, it's been years since I watched it last, so just bear with me if my mind's foggy here, then apologies. But if you watch it, there was one point during it I actually felt sorry for Resto, but then the story kept coming out, and because he stated that he had not a clue that Panama Lewis had took the horsehair out the glove. I think it was Reyes' gloves or something. And but eventually it kind of came out that he did know about it, and it was put to him, do you know that they had been taken out? And he said, yeah. So straight away there and then I said to myself that any kind of thought, a kind of empathy that I had for you is actually gone right out the window. You knew you were into your hands with loaded gloves or deloaded gloves, and you basically had your hands all wrapped up, maybe dipped in a wee bit of water to kind of make it hard, and just took out the pad, and it probably took an 8-ounce glove, maybe I think it's 8 ounce up it to welterweight, I think it is. So he's maybe made his gloves like 6 or 4 ounces. I mean, come on. I mean, they basically destroyed that kid's life. Smashed his face to bits. He became an alcoholic, and then some people say he committed suicide. But he was killed in a car accident anyway, probably under influence. Who's to blame? Both are to blame. I don't know how things were. I think it was on the Moore Duran undercard, that fight. So I don't know, what the rules are like back in the day, if the commissions checked the gloves if they're in the proper state or whatever, if the gloves were kept by the commission before getting handed out to the fighters on the night of the fight, or that sort of thing. Either way, there's been tragic, breakdown in communication or whatever. I mean, it wouldn't happen nowadays, I wouldn't think.
Jake and Vicky were calling that fight, weren't they? Do you remember?
Yep.
I think with Resto, I don't think he should be absolved of all blame completely. But one thing I will say about him is that you could see how
it affected them.
How vulnerable. Well, actually, when he was a young fighter and when Panama Lewis took him under his wing, you could see how kind of vulnerable and needy a guy Resto was, and you could see how malleable he would be and how quite easy he would be to manipulate. And I thought it was telling at the very end of the documentary when he goes to confront Panama. He can't quite bring himself to stand up to him. Panama's still able to intimidate him even then, like when he's supposed to be going for a showdown with him. Panama's like intimidating him. He can't quite. He's still sort of like mollycoddling him and saying, "Come on, son." Yeah. He was looking down at the ground. He was looking down at the ground, and Panama was like, "Come on, you're my son. Don't come at me with shit like this." Do you know what I mean? So it's like you could see the influence that Lewis had over that kid. Do you know what I mean? Even as a grown man, it's like he went straight back like 20, 30 years or whatever it was. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So, Assault in the Ring. Yeah, if you haven't seen that, guys, anyone listening at home, a beautifully made but tragic documentary on the life of Lewis Resto and Billy Collins, wasn't it, who ended up putting the car in the tree? And yeah, terrible story. But thanks to George for raising that question. Let's rattle through a few more of these Bellews before we get the hell out of here. Boxing Kingdom, they're becoming as regular.
Oh, fuck, I got blocked this week off that prick.
Sky Sports for getting on this list. They on the subject of why there's been no AJ Molina gloves are off. Apparently, Boxing Kingdom said AJ totally backs it up in the ring, so probably didn't need the gloves are off. Looking forward to the Chisora versus White gloves are off though.
Oh, fucking hell.
Good old Boxing Kingdom there. Nomination from Dean Glover for Paul Smith Jr. When he was talking about Andre Ward, he said, "I've always compared Ward to like the Jose Mourinho of boxing." Well, that one's a nomination for you, Seb, actually, from Ben Churchard, regular listener. So this is one I'm taking in jest. He said, "If Seb doesn't win Bellew of the Week for turning up on the pod like Kerry Katona, then I'm out."
What does he mean by Kerry Katona?
Drugged out your nut last week.
Oh, that. One thing I will want to say, like, is because people are going to probably have even more complaints this week. Don't direct them to the boys, and don't direct them to me. Direct them to Donald, because he's the mastermind behind all this. He's the Machiavelli. He's the reason I'm here in the first place, and even on Twitter. So send it all to him. I'm not bothered about it. These guys aren't bothered about it. Send it to Donald. All right. Cheers.
You're to blame, Donny. Bellew of the Week.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. I take full responsibility, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
No problem, sir. You want a good list anyway, because we've had Zach Purton coming in. He said, "Let's hope a Pac-Man versus Jeff Horn fight happens soon. Would be a great fight."
Who?
Exactly. Jeff Horn is for Australia, mate. He's like an up-and-comer, so ex-Olympian.
Nigel Smith on a Facebook page, he says, "If Froch did come out of retirement for the Triple G fight, he'll need at least a couple of fights at least, then consider it, but don't think he'll come back and then stay undefeated." And then someone said, "Casual spotted, he has already been defeated." And then Neil Ryan says, "Bellew of the Week." So Nigel Smith, you've been nominated as well. Just flicking through these guys, a few of the same ones. Carl Froch for Bellew of the Week. He said, "I'm nearly 40, been retired for 2.5 years, but I'm too big and strong for Triple G." More from the Boxing Kingdom. Floyd versus McGregor makes sense. It could be a simple kickboxing belt. And there's a whole load of them here from the Boxing Kingdom.
It's criminal. I mean, I know Ryan gave us one as well just before we went live there. I can't lay my hand on it. I there it's there. He's apparently heard and said that the ring walks on Twitter last night was at 4 a.m. And Boxing Kingdom says, nope, it was at 4:37 a.m. UK time. We told everyone 4:30 a.m. UK time. We were the closest.
I saw that one.
What?
Ryan Scalia put it up, didn't he?
Aye. Fucking tragic.
This is a mistake you'd never make, Donny, sent in by Sean Brushett. Sky Sports Boxing. Chunky is Brooklyn bound. He's ready to fight Badu Jack at the iconic Staples Center. And Sean Brushett says Bellew of the Week, Staples in LA.
Even Brooklyn's not even fucking legendary fucking place for boxing.
Exactly. More location crimes from Mario Lopez and Steve Kim for saying that Raimundo Beltran was robbed against Ricky Burns in Ireland and not Scotland.
Well, we know the Americans are no good with their geography. And
Yeah,
stuff.
no, we're really awful, actually.
You're very insular people.
Yes.
And I think this could be it. Sky Sports Boxing, Brian King sent this in. They said that Kovalev had already lost a fight before the Andre Ward fight. We don't pay much attention to Sky Sports website. That's just, I don't know who. I think
I've stopped reading them, actually.
Typewriters running that at the moment.
I stopped reading them, actually. They are absolutely awful.
Oh, nomination for Smido, Andy. Smido's
what?
been nominated. He said Calzaghe retired rather than fight Froch. Froch retired rather than fight Triple G, but only one gets stick. Thomas Joseph wants Smido on the list for that one.
Fair enough. I'll go with that one. Speedo. He's getting my vote.
And David Osborne, this was in an altercation with you. He said Triple G should be Fighter of the Year. He won 2 in 2016, beat a previously unbeaten welterweight champion, still got a 100% record, got to be a candidate. And then you hit him with Bellew of the Week.
Aye, of course. Speedo knows what it's all about. The fact is, he's not here tonight. Actually, slagging off fucking this Golovkin situation with Froch and that and bigging his man up, and George Groves. I mean, I really wished he was here for George Groves because he would have fucking slaughtered him. He's basically went for 80. I'll say what he kind of roughly said anyway. Speedo says, George Groves has went for probably A class to C level now. 3 defeats in world title fights, fought in front of 80,000 fans to fight on Channel 5 in front of 700 people. Real hate.
Real hate. I've exhausted everything I wanted to talk about. So for the last minute, I'm going to have a quick look down my Twitter feed, which I don't usually do whenever we're live. But I'm going to do it tonight. And there's a few questions coming in very, very quickly, Andy. After Ward's win last night, do you think he could potentially fight Adonis Stevenson next? Asks Garin Williams.
No, because he's with Rock Nation and Adonis Stevens with Heyman, so there's like a situation there, isn't there, between they two? So maybe that fight doesn't happen.
I'm thinking to myself though, maybe because I mean, Arum and Heyman seem to be making a couple of fights here and there now, and have they seem open to that. Maybe it's not as far fetched as we think. But the only thing we do know is that it can't be next. But if he were to win the rematch with Kovalev, I could see it.
Hey to Dave Loback, Rick Laws bounced one in here for you. He wants to get inside your mind, and why wouldn't he? That's what I would say. Can you boys break down exactly how you score a round, please? Is it the bigger work rate, best significant punches, and do you count the significant punches and score them against each other? What are you looking for, Dave, when you score in a round?
Well, there's the 3 criteria. I don't remember what they are. Exactly.
In general, defense,
effective aggressiveness, defense, and
clean, effective punching.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I got a nice practice with scoring a tough fight last night, and then again this morning by watching Kovalev Ward, and you see all that stuff in abundance. So I guess I would probably give. I'm really big on clean shots, clean work. I score UFC the same way, and everyone disagrees with me and says, "Oh, you gotta look at the guy who's coming forward." No, that's just not how I do it. I go for the clean, effective punches. So if they're glancing blows, even if you're throwing more, you're more active. Another guy landing 1 clean shot to like three glancing blows, I'll give it the edge to the guy who landed clean. That's might be partly why I scored it to Ward last night. I'm all about clean, hard shots that snap the guy's head around, make him look surprised, if not hurting him or knocking him down.
We've had one come in. This is the last question. I know I keep saying this, but it's going to have to be. Ainsley, Right, Seb, I'm going to let you have the last one. I'm going to give you your due this week. It's very easy. He says, do you think it's suspicious how the scoring panned out for the last 6 rounds of the fight last night? Do you think it's suspicious?
Just the one card, and that's the Clements card. It really did look on that one card. If there was any card that was in the bag that was bought or was in the pocket or anything, it would be that card, the Clements card, because it looked like Burt built a good old winning lead for Ward, and then just was like, oh, I'll balance it out a little bit and give Kovalev this one to make it look a bit. But I don't think with the other cards, I forget the one guy's name, but the other one was Glenn Drawbridge. Sorry,
Glenn Drawbridge.
I have to do this shit. I gotta do it. But yeah, Glenn Drawbridge. Yeah, I mean those two cards were legit to me. It's just that the Burt Clemens one was the one that looked a bit sus to Ainsley. My friend Ainsley, who blocked me for no reason, just rage blocked me.
Right, boys, we're going to call it to a close. We enjoyed tonight's show. It's been really good. Thanks to everyone who's jumped on. We had Dave the Hater Lowback. I'm going to come up with a sound effect for each of you. So, Dave, I'm going to give you this one.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
I don't know. Wait, someone said last week, I can't remember who it was, someone messaged me and said they were enjoying the sound effects. So, Dave the Hater Lowback, you can have that one. We also had Donny. Donny, this is a good one for you, Donny. Andy, what can we get for you? We'll go for this one.
Yes.
And Seb, you haven't been too bad this week, but we'll have to drop this one on you. All it's been left for me, Steve Wellings, to say thanks very much for listening, guys. We'll speak to you next week.